Obviously, we're going to be looking at a few running backs that go in round 4, round 5 in this live stream. Day 3 of the draft just started, but as we wait for those names to pop up, I mean, I have a ridiculous amount of teams that we need to go ahead, we need to look at, and hopefully come up with some plans for their Dynasty rookie drafts. We have a much better idea where the tiers break, right? Like, I think a lot of people need to get inside the top 7 picks in your rookie draft. If you're at pick 8, if you're at pick 9, I would love if you can do anything that you could possibly do to get to the 106, to get to the 107 if it's a super flex league. But we're going to come up with a bunch of trades. We're going to look at a bunch of things here. And we're going to do this first one for Raider Rick, longtime member of the flock. Appreciate you, my friend. Says, what would you do with this team? I've been trying to package Lawrence and Wilson plus to try to get one of the top 5 receivers with no luck. With tight ends getting a full point bonus per reception, I find myself starting 3 tight ends most weeks. Should we continue to hoard tight ends and take Warren or Loveland with pick 8? So now that we have the landing spots for these guys with the draft capital, it actually is very interesting. And yeah, of course, let's go ahead and let's pull this up. You can see right here that this is a full point tight end premium format in a half PPR league. So if you're looking at tight ends, they are 100% viable in the flex. Like, I think a lot of people make the mistake where if it's a half point tight end premium format in a full PPR league, they think all of a sudden they need to be putting a big premium on the tight end position. When in reality, you just simply don't have to. However, in this scenario, I would make the argument that yes, tight ends are going to be a massive deal, and I would move them up dramatically in my rankings. Like, if we go ahead and look at my updated rookie rankings right now, you can see that I actually do have the wide receivers with Matthew Golden and Igbuka ahead of Loveland and Warren. But if you're playing in a half PPR league where tight ends get a full additional point per reception, and then of course I'm going to be bumping Loveland and Warren up ahead of Matthew Golden and Igbuka. I still probably prefer the tier of the top 7 guys ahead of the tight ends, but if you're at the 108 and these top 7 players have gone off the board, then yeah, at that point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pivot over and we're going to take a tight end with Loveland. But of course, we can go ahead and we can talk about it all. This is the best team in the league. We are Bo Knows Football. You can see most value in the league. Decent little grouping of 3 teams here at the top, and then there's a significant drop off to the rest. We can go and look at the worst team in the league, which is just laughably bad here, where they're sitting with what? I mean, a running back 1, Tank Bigsby, a wide receiver 1, Cortland Sutton, their best quarterbacks, Jameis Winston. Like, this is a disgusting team. But anyway, we don't have to look at their team. We're looking at ours. And lucky enough, we are a team with the 101. So you're actually in a situation in which super easy, super straightforward on what to do here. I know you were mentioning that we are trying to package Lawrence and Wilson plus to get one of the top 5 receivers, where it looks like we were able to get up to Brock Bowers. I mean, at the moment, we are sitting with Caleb, Bo Nix, and Jordan Love as our 3 quarterbacks. And I think Caleb Williams has to be one of the biggest winners from the NFL draft, right? I mean, I actually moved Caleb ahead of Patrick Mahomes in my rankings just because the weapons that he has with them not going out of their way to add in an additional running back. I mean, it seems like Caleb may just drop back 40 plus times a game this season. So Caleb, Bo Nix, Jordan Love, super strong quarterback core. I mean, you have the 3rd best quarterback core in the league, according to the league analyzer. And I don't necessarily think that there's anything that you need to do here. Of course, if Derek Carr ended up getting dealt to like the Pittsburgh Steelers and Carr is good to go, then at that point, if you wanted to throw him on the trade block, see if we could send Derek Carr and maybe like a 2nd rounder to get a 1st, obviously we would do so, but you're not going to be able to make that trade anytime soon. You are going to have to get some positive news regarding Derek Carr if you were going to look to sell him. I think we're just kind of sitting still with Caleb, Bo Nix, and Love on our roster. Going ahead and looking at what we have with the running backs. We have Jahmyr Gibbs and Ashton Jeanty. You have the best team in the league. There's no reason for you to feel like you need to tear down from this Ashton Jeanty pick. I mean, you're in a perfect spot to just stick and pick, take Jeanty, have 2 of the top 3 overall running backs. At this point, like you can see in my tier, I have Gibbs, Bijan, Jeanty, all ranked back-to-back in my startup rankings at 14, 15, 16. So you can really take these guys in whatever order you want, but having 2 of them on your team gives you such a nice ceiling to contend in the short term. Also, over the next few years as well. Tyrone Tracy is going to be a player that I have to move up my rankings because it looks like he did survive the NFL draft. James Conner looks to be in a great spot, of course, where the Arizona Cardinals don't bring anybody in. So we have great running back depth to be able to go ahead and contend. It's going to be a start 10 league, and where we have reasonably 4 running backs that we can rely on. Going over to receiver, we have 4 wide receivers that we can rely on with Brian Thomas, Garrett Wilson, Jameson, Terry McLaurin. I did move Brian Thomas down just a tad bit with the Travis Hunter addition in Jacksonville. I moved Brian Thomas from wide receiver 7 to wide receiver 8, but I don't necessarily think that we need to be moving off of him on this team because, again, he's cornerstone asset. You can contend with him in the short term, and in the long term, he's still going to be viable. I know you were saying that we were starting 3 tight ends with Bowers, Hawkinson, and Kraft. But in this crazy tight end premium format, because you have no need at quarterback, you have no need at wide receiver, you have no need at running back, I am completely fine. Yeah, this 108, going ahead, you were talking about taking Warren or Loveland. For me, I probably prefer Loveland. NFL draft capital-wise, there's no difference. But if you were looking at, and actually Cam Scatterbo just got drafted, knocking Tracy off, so never mind. Yeah, Tootin goes to the Jags. Scatterbo, I'm looking at I'm not watching the draft, but I have the draft tracker going on here. Scatterbo ends up going to the New York Giants, so that does take away one of our running backs from us. Of course, Tracy still could be the starter. It's not like round 4 capital means Scatterbo's for sure the guy. But I don't know. I think that if you were looking at these players as prospects, Scatterbo's the better prospect. No, Tracy had flashes his rookie season, but he was also like a 25-year-old rookie. So maybe running back depth is a little bit more questionable. But again, it's a start 10 league. We reasonably have 2 quarterbacks we can start. We're going to have 3 tight ends with Bowers, Hawkinson, and then Loveland 108. So that's 5 players. Then we have Brian Thomas, Garrett Wilson, Jameson, Terry. That's 9. And then even if Tracy's no longer startable, if we're still sitting with Gibbs, Genty, James Conner, you're in a perfect spot to contend. Like, is there anything that you could possibly look to do? I mean, if you could sell Tucker Kraft and get a noticeable upgrade elsewhere to a team that needs tight end help, again, I know that there's a massive premium on the position, so of course we're going to be looking to try to sell at that premium. But if we're going over and checking out this roster here, they have like Cade Otton, Hunter Henry as their 2 tight ends. Cade Otton looks like he's going to be complete dust now that you have Igbuka going over to the Bucks. So if you wanted to send over an offer where if we decide to take Loveland at the 108, if we send this team Tucker Kraft and maybe look to get back, I mean, in a regular league, I would just go ahead and I would just take the 201. But in a full point per reception addition for the tight end position in only a half PPR league, I think you'd potentially ask for the 201 and the 207. If you end up getting that 201, you're able to come away with like RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson, get that running back to replace what we just lost in Tracy. 207, take a swing on somebody like Kyle Williams. So maybe that's the solution for us just losing out on Tracy. But even that, if you don't get a great price tag for Tucker Kraft, it's not like you have to do it because we're bringing in Genty, we have Gibbs, and we have James Conner. So we still have 3 viable running backs. But overall, it's a great team. It's the best team in the league. I think it's pretty straightforward stick and pick with Genty. And then I'm probably going to go Loveland. I still think I would go Henderson Judkins over like Loveland and Warren in case somebody else in your league thinks that the premium is good enough to push the tight ends over these running backs, especially for your roster where you have Bowers, you have Hawkinson, so it's not like you need help at tight end. But I think that's all I got for you. Again, really do appreciate you, my friend. Really hope I was able to help you out in some way here. Yeah, great team. I think it's a really straightforward rookie draft for you. Now, let's move this over for our next team. This is going to be Fixer Ben. It says, figured 2024 was a rebuild year, but with an outside chance of hitting, ended 2024 in 3rd place, 5th points, won the first playoff round, lost in the semis, started strong with Jordan Mason and Diggs at the flex, but with injuries, the team effectively fell apart around week 12. We bought Ayuk on the low. So looking at the roster with the league analyzer, we are near the very bottom here. Typically, when you see this, it's a situation in which you are more likely than not incentivized to go ahead and approach it from a long-term outlook and try to retool, try to rebuild over the next year. That way, 12 months down the line, hopefully we can be sitting up here 4th or 5th when it comes to the most value on our team, where we have a little bit more flexibility. But we'll see, because maybe we have a bunch of contending assets where making those moves will be a little bit difficult. So looking at our roster right now, I would say that probably the biggest need that we have is going to be at the quarterback position. Right now, quarterback, we have McCarthy, Darnold, Daniel Jones. Now, of course, it's not a super flex league, so it's not the end of the world. It is going to be a 1 quarterback format, but it's also a half PPR league. It's also a start 9 format. So quarterback's going to make up a decent little percentage of our starting lineup output weekly here. So I would love to go get another quarterback. Now, of course, if you decided that we wanted to rebuild this year, then it's not going to be a priority for us to go and get that quarterback right now. We'd probably just rather go ahead and wait. That way we can make sure that we get a high rookie pick in 2026. But the issue is you can't decide to rebuild for 2 different reasons. First reason being, you look at our 2026 picks. We have no first. So since we have no 2026 first, you're in a position in which if you were to go ahead, rebuild, have a bad team this year so you can have a good team next year, you're not going to earn the 101. You're not going to earn the 102. You're just giving that pick to somebody else. So you really have no incentive to rebuild on that front. And the second reason we can't rebuild is if you look at the structure of our team, there are very few players that we could hold on to as cornerstone assets. Like players that are contending assets are guys that you could very easily see their value being less 12 months from now than it is today, but you're willing to hold them onto your roster because they're actually going to be able to help you when it comes to production in the short term. And if we look at our team here, I mean, we have Barkley, Jacobs, Waddle, Ayuk, Metcalf, Evans, Diggs. Arguably every piece at the very top outside of Rome, and then McCarthy obviously doesn't matter in a 1 quarterback format. Every piece that moves the needle, like that's not a red labeled here, outside of Rome, is a contending asset that if you were to pivot to a rebuild, you would have to sell. So changing the structure of this team is going to be very, very difficult because you would have to make a multitude of trades and there's no payoff at the end because we don't have our 2026 first. So from my perspective, we are a team that needs to contend, but in terms of our long-term value, it's shaky at best. For that reason, the last thing you could ever do is trade away your 2027 first. If you have your 2027 first, you're needing to hold on to that and hold on to it tight. Looking at the 106, thank God we have it, because in a 1 quarterback format, pick 6 is going to be the end of the tier. Obviously, we're not taking Cam Ward. Nobody's taking Cam Ward in the top 6 picks in a 1 quarterback league. So we are going to be left over with one of Hampton, Hunter, Tet, Trevion, Quinshawn. So when we're looking at this list of names, I think if we end up coming away with like Trevion Henderson, if you end up coming away with Quinshawn Judkins, this is a player that, similar to Rome Odunze, can hold that long-term value for you, but at the same time, give you a shot to actually contend in the short term. So the 106, very easy stick and pick scenario. The 209, the 304, for me here, I think my plan would be, is there a way we can get to a quarterback that can help us contend? Is there a way we can sell the 209 and JJ McCarthy and go get an upgrade at the quarterback position in this 1 QB league? So, of course, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to go look at the other teams, see who has an expendable quarterback. Like this team has Lamar, Drake May, Jordan Love. Is there a world in which we could possibly send them our second McCarthy, go get Drake May? If we can do that, an absolute no-brainer. This team is Josh Allen, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Bryce Young. Is there a world in which we can send them JJ McCarthy, our second and our third, and go get Caleb Williams? If we can do that, absolute no-brainer. This team here has Kyler, Penix, Dak. Again, I would almost do the same thing with Kyler Murray. Is there a world in which we can send them JJ McCarthy in our second to go get Kyler? Because if we're going to contend, I don't think you can contend here in a one quarterback format with your quarterback room just being JJ, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones. I think you do need to get an upgrade, realistically. I don't want to be trading that 106. I think the pieces I'd be looking to deal are the 209, the 304. I think you're kind of fine building around the running backs, wide receivers, tight ends that you have to contend this season. I'm not really wanting to make too many other trades. I think you just push in to win right now with that quarterback upgrade. You hold on to your 2027 first, and next offseason when Barkley, Jacobs, Waddle, Ayuk, Metcalf, Evans, Diggs, they're all a year older. I think then you absolutely tear this down, because you'll probably be at the bottom of the league analyzer when it comes to value, because we know a lot of these assets are going to be losing value over the next 12 months, but it gives us a realistic shot to contend this season. Then tear this down, completely rebuild starting in 2026, earn the 101 in 2027, and reevaluate from that point. But again, you have to hold on to your 2027 first for that to be a viable strategy. But I think that's all I got for you with this team. Again, I think it's another scenario where your rookie draft strategy should be a pretty cut and dry, because you are lucky enough to be inside that tier there at the 106 in that one quarterback format. But of course, you know I'm wishing you the best of luck, my friend. But let's move this over. Kios's website looks great, Mason. Glad to catch a stream while I cook dinner. Appreciate you, my friend. And we did this in the live stream last night, but I want to reiterate that we'll do the same thing right now. If you are waiting for a team review and you are watching this live stream, please let me know your flock team name, and then we'll go ahead and we'll skip to your team review to do that for you right now. That way, if you have any questions, you can ask them while you're here. Okay. Now, Kirwan coming through with our next question. Says, hey, Mason, I'm headed into the draft with picks 4 through 6. League activity is low. Recently moved Flowers, Fields, Kmet for Dak, Jacobs, Kittle. Let's just throw this into the trade calculator. We moved Flowers, Fields, Kmet, who Kmet's an absolute zero at this point, for Dak, Jacobs, Kittle. How did you do this? Yeah, I like 9 times out of 10, if we ever throw a trade into the trade calculator and it says you're robbing them, 99% of the time, trade's going to get rejected. So I don't even bother telling people to offer it. The fact that you were able to pull this off is incredible. Even before Loveland went to Chicago, this would have been a no-brainer. I'm wanting to move up for Ginty, but there is no interest from the other team until draft day. Thoughts on how to use these future picks to contend this year? So we are JSNs with attitude. There's a group of 3 juggernauts in this league. I like the fact that even though this is a 10-team format, it's going to be a start 11 league, so depth is at least a little bit important here. And yeah, you are in just an absolute perfect spot. Now, I know you were talking about moving up for Ginty, but picks 4, 5, 6 put you in a really comfortable position. Now, the difficulty with this is it's a league where you are going to need to start 8 total running backs and wide receivers. 8 total running backs and wide receivers. It's a 10-team Superflex league, so quarterback's not going to be as important. So if you look at my Superflex rankings, I have Cam Ward here at 5. I think typically if you're a team with 4, 5, 6, what you're doing is you're taking one of the top 4 players, whether that's Hampton, Hunter, T-Mac, whoever falls here. You're taking one of those guys, Cam Ward, and then your favorite running back between Henderson and Judkins. However, in this scenario, where it's a 10-team Superflex league, you have to start 8 total running backs, wide receivers. And we already have Herbert, Kyler, Dak, and McCarthy. There's very little interest in taking Cam Ward. Plus, we want to contend right now. And in my mind, I don't think you need to trade these future picks to contend. I think you have a strong enough roster where realistically, we can go ahead, we can stick and pick at 4, 5, 6, add 3 difference-making players in here right this second, and still be able to win right now. Because quarterback, where we have Herbert, Kyler, Dak, McCarthy, we're going to be able to play the matchups between these guys. Obviously, if you could turn around and sell one of these quarterbacks with, say, the 105 and move up to the 101 to get Ashton Jeanty, we would, right? Like if there was any world in which you can get Ashton Jeanty and sell, say, the 105 and Dak Prescott, or making this trade any day of the week. But the reality is, we go ahead and we look at that team with the 101. I would be very surprised. Actually, maybe they take a deal like that. Because you look at the quarterback room that they're sitting with, they have Caleb Stroud and then no QB3. So if you wanted to try to package together one of your quarterbacks with like pick 5, pick 6 to go up and get Jeanty, if you can do it, go for it by all means. Just what I found is it's a little bit of a tougher spot in a 10-team Superflex league to be making that move, as opposed to a 12-teamer where obviously the demand supply ratio for quarterbacks going to be a little bit different. But anyway, quarterback, we're fine if we wanted to contend this year, right? We can contend with Herbert, Kyler, Dak, McCarthy. We can play the matchups between these dudes. Going over to running back, we have James Cook, Josh Jacobs. So arguably a running back 1, running back 2 for this next season. Depth is a little bit shaky, but if we're sitting with picks 4, 5, and 6, what I think I would almost do here is, given your league format and given your team situation, still at pick 4, we're taking whoever falls between Hampton, Hunter, and T-Mac. But at picks 5 and 6, I may just pull the trigger on both Trevion Henderson and Judkins. Because say we hypothetically came away with this with like, can everybody spam the chat real quick for me? Because I know where I'm ranking Travis Hunter. I just realistically don't know where we should expect him to go in rookie drafts. Can y'all spam the chat? Would you rather have Tet or would you rather have Hunter? And I know we shouldn't call him Tet anymore, blah, 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 but it's ingrained into me. If y'all were on the clock at the 103, Amari and Hampton's gone, are you taking Tet McMillan or are you taking Travis Hunter? Please let me know in the live chat. Is there's a world in which, like, if people are completely out on Travis Hunter, somebody goes like Judkins 103 instead, and you end up getting like Travis Hunter and T-Mac 104, 105. We got T-Mac in the chat, Hunter, because I think Hunter's going to have a wide range of outcomes with where he goes in these rookie drafts. Again, if he falls, he's in this tier 2 of guys for you to just go ahead and pull the trigger on yourself. But let's go like worst case scenario. You get, say, Travis Hunter at pick 4, then pick 5 and pick 6, you go Judkins and Henderson. You have James Cook, Jacobs, Judkins, Henderson. We can contend with that running back room just like you can with your quarterback situation right now. Wide receiver, we have Thomas, London, JSN, Harrison. You bring in, say, Travis Hunter with pick 4. Travis Hunter's in here as your wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. We even have the depth still of Ricky Pearsall, Keon Coleman. Going over to tight end, you have viable options with Kittle and Kraft. So that is a team that easily can contend right now, especially in a start 11 league where you're actually going to have to get a bunch of guys into your starting lineup. I think there'll be few teams in your league that actually can keep up with the amount of depth that you have. Then we also look at the fact that a lot of those assets would be players that we're not expecting to lose value 12 months from now. Like, say you take Hunter, Judkins, Henderson, they could all be worth more in 2026 than they are right now. Brian Thomas could be worth more next season. London could be worth more. JSN could be worth more. Harrison could be worth more. The only players that are like pretty likely to be worth less 12 months from now than they are today on your team are James Cook, Josh Jacobs, George Kittle. But these are pieces that we need to actually go out there and contend this season, right? So it's not like we're wanting to sell them off. But my entire point is, will you stick and pick at picks 4, 5, and 6? I don't think you take Cam Ward here just because your format and your situation. You have a contending team day one. You have a contending team that also is going to have a bunch of future long-term value, while at the same time, you have an extra 2026 first. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 extra 2026 second rounders, where you have a bunch of reinforcements with players coming in 2026. If you wanted to start consolidating assets and you wanted to start, say, selling these 2026 picks to get improvements inside the starting lineup, I would almost rather wait to do that during the season once a team here at the bottom realizes, oh, crap, Jonathan Taylor isn't producing the way I thought he was. I need to pivot over to a rebuild. And then at that point, maybe you go ahead and you take a pick, package it with another player, and you go get Bucky Irving, right? So I think if you're trading your future picks, you're waiting until the season. I think we go whichever player last from tier 2 at pick 4, whether it's Hampton, Hunter, McMillan, go Judkins and Henderson. The 302, do whatever the hell you want. And then hold on to this future ammo to either trade during the season or honestly just bring reinforcements to the team next year. And if you wanted to make that Ginty trade, I think you're trying to package together one of these quarterbacks and one of your picks, like at either 5 or 6, doesn't matter which one. Go send the 105 and one of your QBs and try to go get Ginty. If you can make that move, by all means do it. But again, it's going to be harder to sell that quarterback in a 10-team Superflex as opposed to a 12-teamer. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my guy. Now let's move this over to W. Blackburn. Says, I'm trying to figure out if I need to move my picks for players to fill holes or stick and pick with my picks. And if so, who should we be looking at with those spots? So looking at the league, it's going to be a tough situation because there's a team at the top that has Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, Puka, Bowers, HN, Bucky, Brees, and then guys like Rashee Rice, Michael Penix, George Kittle. Like, there are very few teams you're going to see in Dynasty as strong as this. So it's an uphill battle to contend in this league, of course. It doesn't mean that we should go through and just completely rebuild because there's a super strong team in the league, because this team's probably going to be super strong in 2026. Hell, they have 2 2026 first, right? So it's not like we can just say, oh, this team has it on lock for 2025. Let's pivot over and let's play for next season. Looking at what we have with pick 5, I'm sorry, our team, it's going to be May. We are 5th in the league analyzer. And our team at the moment is absolute dog water. It's horrendous. But you have the rookie picks to save us. This is going to be a Superflex 12 team tight end premium format with a pretty big tight end premium as well. If this truly is a tight end premium format where you're getting a full additional point per reception for the tight end position and not, so you're getting 2 points per reception for tight end, not 1.5, then in that case, I think you're actually in a really, really good spot with this league. We have May and Bo Nix. So quarterback, we're chilling. We can contend with May and Bo Nix this next season. And at the same time, these are quarterbacks that you have no reason to believe that their value is going to be less 12 months from now than it is today. Like, these are the exact examples of what we'd be looking at from a cornerstone asset piece. Going over and looking at running back, we have nothing. We have Marshawn Lloyd, Deuce Vaughn, Franco. We have nobody. Wide receiver, we have Brian Thomas Jr., cornerstone asset, very similar to the quarterbacks. We can contend with him in the short term. We can build around him in the long term. Don't have to worry about his value going anywhere. And we have Keon Coleman as maybe whatever. Maybe he does something this year. Who knows? And then we have Tucker Kraft at tight end. But regardless, this team earned the 101 for a reason, right? We went through and we decided to build for the long term, which was probably the right move. We have Ashton Ginty now for it. And the real question is, can we contend right now? Because if you saw the review previous to this, we looked at a team with the 105 in a 10-team Superflex league that is ready to contend, that had enough production at quarterback. And I said, well, you know what? Even though Cam Ward's my 5th player, I'm going to go ahead and I would take Judkins or Henderson over him in that context. But for you, I don't necessarily think we can view our team and just say, okay, yeah, we're guaranteed to contend right this second. Because the reality is, even if we bring in Ashton Ginty, even if you reached on, say, Judkins at the 105 instead of Cam Ward, could we contend with Drake May, Bo Nix, Ashton Ginty, Judkins, Brian Thomas, and then 108, you get Igbokwe, 111, you get Loveland? You're still not contending with that team. There's no way that team has any shot against that team at the top. So I think you are in a great path in terms of accumulating value and just going through and putting yourself in a position to be a really strong contender in 2026 when you have these 2025 picks, taking that step forward in year 2. So for me, I think we are going to be taking best players available here. Now, it is maybe a difficult thing to justify what is the best player available when we're looking at the 108 and 111, because again, for most league formats, I would say that 108 is a significant teardrop. I think you need to get inside the top 7 picks. You need to have access at Henderson. You need to have access at Judkins or Cam Ward. But if you're at the 108, instead, you're looking at like Matthew Golden, Igbokwe, Loveland, or Warren. So it's a completely different tier of players. However, again, the league analyzer is telling us that this is a full point tight end premium format. So if you're telling me that you're actually going to be getting 2 points per reception for the tight end position, then I probably change my mind here. And I would actually say that 108, that 111 puts you in a decent little spot, because what that effectively does is that pushes up the tight ends dramatically. Where if you're getting 2 points per reception for the tight end position, that 108, all of a sudden, I'm just going to take Loveland. That 111, if we get Tyler Warren falling, cool. If not, the 111, you're getting Matthew Golden, you're getting Igbokwe. So I actually think, given your league format, you're chilling. We go Ginty 1. At 5, if Travis Hunter falls to you, if T-Mac falls to you, we go ahead, we'll take him. But I would expect you're probably going to get Cam Ward. I think you stick and pick Cam Ward, even if he's our quarterback 3 here. I think he's a quarterback that's really going to be able to hold on to value going into next offseason, which again, I don't know if this team can contend right now. And I think you're way too far away from contending to start trading away your rookie picks for veterans. And then 108, of course, if any of the top 7 players fall to you, if Judkins falls, if Henderson falls, you go ahead and you take him very easily. But assuming that they're off the board, I think we actually go ahead, we take one of these tight ends like Loveland. 111, if Tyler Warren makes it, I'm fine taking both Loveland and Tyler Warren, given the tight end premium aspect of this league. And if not, you walk away with Igbokwe. You walk away with Matthew Golden, either wide receiver who has a shot to be worth more 12 months from now than he is today. So I think that you're a year away from contending. If we're looking at this roster, I think you're on a phenomenal path to contend in 2026. I think you stick and pick with the selections that you have. When we're looking at the 301, the 302, if you want to take a shot on best player available, you can. Another thing you could obviously do, if anybody loves what's on the board at the 301, is if you could trade your 301 and get a 2026 second rounder to come in, I'd be completely fine with that. If you can trade your 302 and get a 2026 second rounder, obviously no brainer. Feel free to throw in the 408. If we can just accumulate those additional 2026 picks and then all of a sudden be in a spot to have these 2025 rookies taking that step forward next season, while at the same time building around the cornerstone assets of May, Nix, Brian Thomas, and have the additional 2026 picks coming in, I think you could be a strong contender then. But I wouldn't make any dramatic swings, dramatic changes to try to contend this season by trading away your rookie picks for veterans. I would probably, again, just stick and pick with what you got. But really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out, my friend. Now, in terms of the stuff we're looking at right now, you don't have too many players going in round 4 that change things. I guess Scadaboo is really the only name. Like, of course, if we're sitting with Scadaboo, pick 105 to the New York Giants, we probably need to be pivoting him, as well as, I guess you can say Tootin obviously changes the Jags backfield a bit. but you weren't really pricing in Travis Etienne or Tank Bigsby as if they were starting running backs this next year regardless. So Scadaboo is really the only pick that truly does move the needle at this moment. And of course, we can go ahead and we can update that ranking when we need to. But let's actually do that right now. Let's figure this out because I can ask y'all's opinion on it as well. Because usually what I've been doing is I've been asking the FSC guys, bouncing thoughts off them. But let's go ahead and let's figure this out. So I had Scadaboo still as my RB7. And we had Scadaboo RB7, Tootin RB8. So our best available running backs that were still... So our highest ranked running backs in our dynasty rankings that had not got drafted are the two guys that go off the board to start today. If we're looking at the situations that they're stepping into, I'm going to keep Scadaboo as my RB7 ahead of Tootin at this time. Reason being is you're looking at a running back that just profiles to be such a prolific receiving back. And again, he has the size to work on all three downs. I like the Jags offense a lot more. If we're looking at where we need to put these guys, I would probably prefer Tootin over... Do we need to move Jack ahead of Tootin? I think Tootin's definitely in this same tier. The thing is, with these early round 2 tight ends, can we justify having a round 4 running back? I mean, a round 4 running back at the very top that has the profile you're looking for outside of the athletic testing. Jalen Noel gets the round 3 capital to Houston at pick 79. And again, it's not like he has a bad profile, especially when we see where Jaden Higgins ended up getting drafted. Jack Beck does get the round 2 capital, though. So I'm going to have Jack Beck. Honestly, probably up at 21. I think that this is a decent little tier of names. I think you can have Tootin as that target there at the beginning of the 3rd round for you. This will be something that we have to continuously update. But I don't think we need to move Scadaboo or Tootin lower or higher than RB7, RB8, which is what they previously were in our rookie ranks. But we can obviously just go back and forth and keep on looking at that. But let's move over to our next question here, or this next team. And again, I want to reiterate, if you are in this live stream and you are waiting for a team review from us, like you have one submitted, please let me know your Flock username and I'll go ahead and I'll skip to your team review and do that right now. That way you can hopefully ask some questions and go back and forth with me. But we're going to be looking at this team from KP Kelly, sitting at the 2nd team in terms of value. We are the Voodoo Rangers. Looks like it fell to 3 after the NFL draft. And perfect. Keith is here right now. Hell yes. And trying to close the gap with the top team, who is a juggernaut. Yeah, I mean, that top team is sitting with Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, St. Brown, Lamar, Lawrence, Barkley, Brees. So this team is for sure a juggernaut. DCU Atomic says, I just submitted today. Will that count? Yeah, if you just submitted something, let me know your Flock username and we'll get to you after this one. But not an easy league to make trades. We get quarterback and it's a 6-point passing touchdown league. Any help / thoughts you can provide would be much appreciated. Appreciate you, Team is Voodoo Rangers. No, thank you so much again. And I know you're out in this chat with us. So, of course, if you have any additional questions as we go through this, fire away. I'd be happy to answer as much as I can. Looking at the league settings, 10-team Superflex league. So quarterback's going to be a little bit easier to come by. Start 10 format. So 100 total starters. We take away the tight end quarterback. You have 70 total running back wide receiver starters every week in this league. Non-tight end premium format, full PPR league. And quarterback, we need someone, right? We are sitting with CJ Stroud. We have Geno Smith. So we arguably, if you're looking at the league analyzer, have the worst quarterback room in this league. And I did say previously to another team that was in here that we looked at like 30 minutes ago that in their 10-team Superflex league, it was Trevor Etienne goes to Carolina. Obviously not massive for Chuba, but it kind of hurt. It definitely hurts Rico Dowdle. But anyway, if we're going over and we're looking at what we have with our roster, I don't think you can justify taking one of the running backs over Cam Ward, assuming Ward's at pick 5. Ward's going to be my 105 in Superflex drafts regardless here. But again, in a 10-team Superflex league, quarterback's a little bit less important. So I think there are scenarios in which you can justify taking Judkins. You can justify taking Henderson. This is not one of them, though, right? You want to go ahead, you want to take Cam Ward, pair him up with CJ Stroud. And that's a pretty damn easy call to make. And then we'll have Geno Smith, QB3. And that should solve our quarterback situation. I mean, we can contend with Stroud and Ward in the short term and build around them in the long term. Would it all of a sudden be an above average quarterback room in this league? Probably not, just because it's not like either quarterback's going to be running the ball like Lamar and neither quarterback's going to be running the ball like Allen, Jalen Hurts, but it can be serviceable enough, right? And given where we sit at running back, wide receiver, tight end, you just need to get to a serviceable point at quarterback for us to be able to go ahead and win this league or have a shot at doing so. Because again, this team's going to be better than ours no matter what, but all you need to see is maybe a Barkley injury, and then a dud week from Chase in the playoffs. And once you get to the fantasy playoffs, it's an any given week type scenario. And it's not like the best team always wins. So, and we are going to put ourselves in a position to be able to go up against them in the playoffs and hopefully get lucky that one week. And I think we can do so with Cam Ward at the 105. Then going over to running back, I mean, we have Gibbs, Bucky, Walker, Charbonnet, Ramondre's dust at this point. But we still have 3 startable running backs, 2 of whom are looking at multiple years left on their rookie deals. Sitting with Walker and Charbonnet, you can almost guarantee that you're going to have somebody in Seattle. So perfectly fine running back room at the very top, while at the same time we have plenty of depth too, right? So running back's great. Wide receiver, we have a bunch of these cornerstone assets where it's not like Brian Thomas, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, JSN. It's not like any of these guys are guaranteed to lose value over the next 12 months. And at the same time, it's a great wide receiver room. We can contend with this wide receiver room right now. If you're looking at the league analyzer, we have the most valuable running back room in this league, and we have the second most valuable wide receiver room in this league. And it's a start 10 format, but we even have the depth down here with like Ricky Pearsall, Josh Downs. So we're perfectly fine at wide receiver, perfectly fine at running back. We have the next best thing outside of Brock Bowers at the tight end position with Trey McBride, and we have depth as well with Kincaid and Strange. So you can see just with the league analyzer as well. I mean, it's a very clear-cut team, in my opinion. We're pick 10, quarterback, we're dead last with the rankings, but running back, wide receiver, tight end, we are either the best team or the second best team at every one of these positions. And we go ahead and we look at where we sit in the rookie draft. The 105 is the perfect range for us to just go ahead and take Cam Ward. I would almost just, I don't want to guarantee, obviously we can never guarantee anything, but like this team at the 104, are they going to take Cam Ward when they have Josh Allen, Drake May, Michael Penix, Matthew Stafford, Daniel Jones? No, they're not, right? And this is the thing. You just in a 10-team league, you go ahead and you look at a lot of these rosters. It's like, oh, there aren't going to be too many teams that really need a quarterback. Now, this team at the 102 needs a quarterback desperately, where AR is their second quarterback. Derek Carr is their third. But again, I don't know if we should expect in a 10-team Superflex league many teams to pull the trigger on Cam Ward at the 102. The team at the 103, I guess, could actually take him. So maybe Cam Ward isn't a lock for us. If we don't get Cam Ward falling to us at the 105, what that would mean is instead you're getting one of Hunter, Hampton, or Tet. And in that scenario, like obviously we love just taking best player available, especially knowing that those 3 names could help us win right now and provide long-term value. But it would put us in a situation in which you are going to be forced to go out there and almost trade for a quarterback. 203, 208. So it's going to be what? Pick 13 and pick 18. Pick 13, we're going to be looking at like Jackson Dart, RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson. Again, because your running back room's so strong, I wouldn't fault you at all if you ended up taking Jackson Dart. Like if at 105 you go Ward, 203 you go Dart. We have a quarterback room of Stroud, Ward, Geno, and Dart, and just say, okay, well, 2 of these 4 players should be viable for us this next year. But again, if Dart goes beforehand or you really like Harvey, you really like Caleb Johnson, I would definitely prefer the running backs for your roster over Higgins and Burden. It's not like we have a bigger hole at running back than we do wide receiver. But the thing is, your team's good enough to contend right now. And since your team's good enough to contend right this second, I would just prefer the running backs that I think give you a better shot at production this year. And then with the 208, so pick 18, I would personally be looking at Kyle Williams there if we can get him. Or, of course, if Jaden Higgins, if Luther Burden end up falling. What was the official capital on Kyle Williams again? Because, again, he has just so much of a better landing spot than Luther Burden. Is there a world in which we see people pull the trigger on Kyle Williams ahead of Burden? Probably not, with Kyle Williams going in the third. But regardless, I think you can go ahead and you can afford at the 208 to still get a pretty damn good prospect, whether that's one of these players falling down from this tier or a player like Milroe or Kyle Williams. But you probably end up looking at a wide receiver in that range. I know we don't particularly need the receiver, but if you take the swing on like Kyle Williams and he turns out to be a complete dud, he turns out to be Marvin Mims, Jalen Polk, who cares? But obviously, if he does hit his top end range of outcomes and he's the wide receiver 1 for Drake May, he could reasonably be a top 18 guy in fantasy and move the needle. He says, no way Burden makes it to me. My brother's a Mizzou grad and he has the 206, 207. That is great to know. But I think you're almost in a perfect spot, assuming you get Cam Ward. Because you get Cam Ward, quarterback situated, running back, wide receiver, tight end. You can 100% contend with these rooms right this second, while at the same time having the long-term value. Pick 13, you can either take another swing on a quarterback with Dart or take a running back that's going to be able to help you contend with RJ Harvey or Caleb Johnson. Or, of course, if you get a surprise with one of these tier 5 players making it to you, take them automatically. 208's the first pick that you're kind of out of an exciting range. If you wanted to try to take the 208 and move up inside, say, the top 14 picks, the top 13 picks. So if you wanted to take like the 208 and the 305 and try to make the move for the 201, that way you could put yourself in a position to get like Tyler Warren. And what you'd be effectively trading is like Kyle Williams, Mason Taylor. I mean, I'd be 100% down to go 208, 305, 405, and go get the 201. Especially knowing that you have plenty of depth on this team, and we are one of the strongest teams in this league. But let me know if you have any questions. My guy, again, I think you're just in a perfect spot for your roster, assuming we get Cam Ward there. And then I wouldn't let that stop us from still taking Jackson Dart and taking another swing on a quarterback at the early second. Just because, again, looking at your roster, you're so strong everywhere but quarterback. That's really the only thing we need to address. But yeah, let me know in the live chat if you have any additional questions, and I'd be super happy to take a look at that for you. And let me see if there's been any other fantasy relevant picks here as well. So around 4, Trevor Etienne does end up going pick 114. So I think what that probably ends up making me do is move Dowdle down our rankings. Where do we have Etienne in comparison to some of these other running backs? I'd still prefer Tootin. I'd still prefer Sampson. Does he jump like... Let's throw him in at RB10 at the moment in our rookie ranks. And obviously we'll continue to, because like say Trevor Etienne goes 114 and then Devin Neal goes here at pick 120. The draft capital difference, there's no difference whatsoever. Like it doesn't matter where they went in the NFL draft at that point. But I don't think Keith has anything else. So let's go ahead and let's move over to our next team. We're going to be looking at this next team for Tappins 2. Okay, so let's refresh this. I think this should be near the bottom. And if anybody is coming into this live stream right now, what we are doing is if you are in the live chat and you have a team review waiting for me, please just let me know your Flock username and I'll go ahead and I will get that done for you right now. And if not, we have nobody in this live stream currently that's waiting for a team review. We'll go ahead and we'll just go in order from oldest to newest. And just in case y'all don't know how this works on the site too, and y'all are wondering like, why are you reviewing teams when they're not even here? The second that I review a team, an email and an automated message goes out on the site to that team's owner and says, hey, Mason just reviewed your team. Here's the link. And they click the YouTube link and it takes them to the exact second that I looked at their team. So it's just like they click the link and then they see me immediately reviewing their team. So super cool in my mind. But anyway, this is Scott's Tots going into year 3 after a first and second place finish to start the league. Are there any specific strategies that you would employ when you're seeing that super team developing? Yeah, so you're going to see that this team here is on the path to be a juggernaut, right? I mean, they're sitting with Jefferson, Neighbors, Ladd, Lamar, Genty. There's not much that you can do other than obviously just focusing on your own roster. I think 9 times out of 10, if you're trying to play like defense and stop another team in your dynasty league, it's just going to make your team worse itself. The one team is about to take the league by storm, and I don't want to fall behind. Also, quick note, I do have an additional 2027 first. That's actually really good to know. Thank you for letting me hear that. And yeah, so we've been the first 2 years at the very top of this league, getting first and second. And we are sitting here third in the league analyzer. We are in a very comfortable spot outside of that juggernaut team at the top for me, which we already discussed. But, ooh, let me double check this. What's going to be really concerning here is this juggernaut team, their 2026 first from Lucy's Goosey's. This is the least valuable team in the league. Where you go and look at their team, oh my gosh. Yeah, the juggernaut team, the number 1 team in the league, they own the first round pick from the team where their wide receiver 1 is Josh Downs. That is a little scary, my friend. Little scary. But anyway, looking at our roster, this is going to be a 1 quarterback start 9 PPR 12 team non-tight end premium format. Rookie pick wise, we are sitting with a couple of second rounders. It's not like we're in a spot where we can take an immediate difference-making player like Judkins to solve any need that we have. We can take shots on guys that maybe have upside, but it's not like we're getting a guarantee with any of these names. Starting off quarterback, we have one of the weaker quarterback rooms in this league. I mean, right now the quarterback room is ranked 12th. We have Kyler, Stafford, Cousins. If this was a super flex league, we'd be panicking. 1 quarterback format. Is it ideal? No. 1 quarterback league, obviously, we still want one of the big 5 names. We want Burrow, Hurts, Lamar, Daniels, Josh Allen. But we're not going to lose the league because Kyler Murray's our quarterback, right? And even if Kyler gets injured, even if the wheels completely fall off in Arizona, we can always go out there and trade for a quarterback. And this league is... DCU Atomic says he has the first round pick of this team in 2027. This team is, if they don't have their own 2026 first, this team's 2027 pick's guaranteed to be the 101. Obviously, we're holding on to that for dear life. So, love to see that's the first round pick that we have. Okay. But anyway, if we need to trade for a quarterback during the season, we will then. We're not going to panic about it right this second. Going over and looking at what we have at running back, we are sitting with Achane, Walker, Charbonnet, Javonte. Javonte may be viable at this point. Like, we're at pick 121 in the NFL draft. The Dallas Cowboys have not taken a running back. When's the next time the Cowboys are on the clock? The Cowboys don't have another pick in round 4. The Cowboys aren't on the clock again until pick 149. There's a realistic chance that Javonte Williams is the starting running back for the Dallas Cowboys week 1, which maybe that makes this running back room just a little bit better. But I would still love to add another running back starter here. Do we desperately need somebody at the top? No. I mean, we have Achane, we have Walker. Perfectly fine running back 1, running back 2 combo. But we're a contending team, right? And a contending team, I would typically prefer, especially in a deeper draft class like this, for us to be going with a running back with our second rounders rather than a receiver. On wide receiver, we have Lamb, cornerstone asset, can contend with him right now, build around it for the long term. Same thing with Harrison. A.J. Brown, a little bit more of a contending asset. And then Chris Olave, no depth beyond the top 4 guys. So I guess you can add in an additional wide receiver starter. Sam Laporta, tight end, cornerstone piece. We can contend with him right now, build around him for the long term. We have Kelsey for the short term as well. And we are a contending team. So there's no reason for us to go out of our way and look to sell a Kelsey level asset, right? There aren't going to be too many teams in our league that would view Travis Kelsey and say that he's going to help their roster more than he'd help ours, just because we are an actual contender where maybe other people aren't. So when we look at this team top to bottom, it's like wide receiver, running back, tight ends chilling. Quarterback, we could use a little bit of help, but it's like every position's fine. We could use another running back. We could use another wide receiver. I mean, we're set up in a way that we can contend right now. Let's go ahead and let's look at the 1 quarterback rankings. And we maybe need to play around with these a little bit more. So how they are stacked up at this moment. Why is Tootin here? Tootin needs to be behind. Why is this? Okay, well, we need to fix this right now. Did I accidentally remove? Actually, no, I'm being stupid. I think Tootin, actually, I need to move up in my rankings. Even if the draft capital is only the 4th round pick, he could reasonably be the starter right now. I think I may even flip Tootin or Scatterboo. Let me know in the chat. Would y'all rather have Tootin with the Jags or Scatterboo with the Giants? My thought process is Scatterboo was just such a strong receiving prospect. That's going to be the difficulty for it with me. And I would almost move these guys. I think Kyle Williams goes to the top of this tier. Sorry, obviously I'm going to be tinkering with these rankings a bunch over the next few days. We have Tootin. We have Tootin. If it wasn't for the receiving profile of Scatterboo, I would be 100% in on it, because obviously Tootin has the athletic profile you look for. And how are we ranking these players? Yeah, I guess you're right, where it's more likely that Travis Etienne's a long-term 0 than what you're going to see with Tracy. I'll flip Tootin and Scatterboo. Comparing to Trey Harris, Harris got the round 2 capital, correct, with the Chargers. What pick was that? Pick 55 with the Chargers. I think I could end up seeing us push the running backs ahead of Harris. It'll be something that we need to think about. But regardless, let's figure out where we're at with these guys when it comes to the 1 quarterback ranks. I think Dart needs to fall a little bit further. So we are sitting here with the 204. So we're going to be at pick 16. Pick 16, we're in a range where I think if you get any of these tier 5 players falling to you, it's almost an auto pick. Because again, we're looking at your roster, and it's not like running back's a massive need in comparison to wide receiver. It's not like wide receiver is a massive need in comparison to running back. And also, when we're sitting with just Kyler and Stafford, even if it's a 1 quarterback format, I'd be fine with you taking Cam Ward. So when we're looking at you at 16, any of these top 15 players falling, I think you just go ahead and select. And realistically, there's probably a decent little shot that one of them does end up falling. Now, if not, we're going to be looking at the tier of like Kyle Williams, Tootin, Scatterboo. Kyle Williams, great landing spot. Round 3 capital. Prospect profile, a lot of people liked. I know the FSC guys are going to try to convince me to put Tootin one spot higher at 16. Since you are a contending roster, I would almost lean with us preferring to go with a running back, whether that's Tootin or Scadaboo, your personal preference. When we're looking at the late second round, I think another reason why you may want to be pushing up, say, Tootin or Scadaboo, if you don't get one of the tier 5 players falling to you at the 204, is like 211, 212. Unless some of these running backs start going off the board sometime soon. Like, I'm not taking Trevor Etienne over these guys like Harris, Knoll, Jack. I think you're maybe looking at wide receivers in the late second. And if we're looking at wide receivers in the late second, maybe you put yourself in a spot where we're just taking a running back, whether that's Tootin or Scadaboo at the 204. Again, if you get a player like Cam Ward, we probably prefer going in that direction. Because all that really matters here is adding the additional depth. I mean, you have the top end assets. One thing that we could consider doing as well is if you don't like the players that are sitting there at the 211, at the 212 for you, you could just hit the reset button and you could punt that 211, you could punt that 212 to pick up 2026 second rounders. Because if you were to go pick up 2026 seconds, just in case, like, say you get a Devon Achane injury during the season this next year, you would have some additional firepower to go out there and plug that hole if need be. Kyler Murray gets injured. If we have those additional 2026 seconds, we can then make a trade for a quarterback when we need to at that point. So obviously having that additional flexibility would be nice, especially when we don't have our 2026 second right now. So 204, I think you stick and pick those players we discussed. 211, 212. I would strongly consider moving off, trying to pick up 2026 second and third. And if you can just get a 2026 second, I think that's fine. And I still may end up making that move. But there's almost nothing else to do with this roster outside of if you're completely off Kyler, maybe packaging one of the seconds with Kyler to try to go get a quarterback upgrade, which could be reasonable where we are looking at a league that's a 1 quarterback 4 match. So we should expect that there are some rosters like this team has Caleb and Herbert, right? What's the cost to go get Caleb from Kyler? Like if you can package a second with Kyler to get Caleb, that may be appealing. DCU says, I was hoping for Higgins, but maybe unlikely now, then doubling up running backs later in the second. So my thing with you doubling up running backs in the second, like just looking at where the board may lie, like, are we going to be like Dylan Sampson, Trevor Etienne, DJ Giddens? Like, what running backs are we getting? Because like top 8 running backs are going to be off the board by the time you're at pick 23. So maybe we'll have a better idea in just like 30 minutes with some running backs going maybe like, I don't know, Sampson ends up getting selected by the Commanders here at pick 128. And then all of a sudden that is viable. DCU Atomic says, would you consider trading the 204? I was thinking of maybe the 204, 212 for Dak and the 210 for the Lamb stack. I'd be completely fine with that, right? Because what you're doing is you're effectively just trading the 204 for Dak Prescott. Again, if you're looking at where I have like that pick ranked, I have like Cam Ward ranked right ahead of it. If you're looking at my rankings with how they stand right now, I do have Cam Ward ranked ahead of Dak when it comes to our startup ranks. So one thing that you could do is if you wanted to sit on that 204, see if Cam Ward ends up making it to you. And if Cam Ward doesn't make it, then at that point, pivot over to Dak. But I think an issue you're going to see with Dak this next year is, while you have Lamb, you have nobody else in Dallas. Like, the second leading receiver here is about to be Jalen Tolbert or Jonathan Mingo. So the I mean, if you could trade like the 211, 212, I think the 204, you're just looking at a completely different tier of prospect than 204. I'm sorry, than the 211, 212. That's why I'm a lot more inclined to trade those late seconds rather than pick 16. There's also pick 16. I think that there's a non-0% chance Cam Ward makes it. But I don't think I have anything else for you. Please, if you have any additional questions, let me know. I'd be super happy to answer anything else you got. I think the next team we'll look at is Renaud's team, which I thought we looked at it yesterday. Maybe I'm wrong. But I saw that I saw that on the sidebar. I was like, I swear we looked at that team yesterday, but I'm very likely just wrong on that. But I really appreciate you, and I hope I was able to help you out in some way there, my guy. But let's move this over and get this going for Renaud with this next team. And yes, been with us for a while. Maybe this is just because of the name's obviously familiar. Been with you for a couple years now. Love the content. Feel like I'm in a full rebuild position, but we do have solid quarterbacks and a few receivers. I have the 101. Should we trade it? I also have the 105 and the 109 as well. Or should we go for value? Any players we should look to trade? The league can be stingy at times. Thanks. Thank you. So a couple different things here. A shallower format. It's a 10-team start 9 superflex. So if we take out the quarterbacks and we take out the tight end, you are going to be starting 60 total running backs, wide receivers across this entire league. So a lot of these depth names, guys like Zay Flowers as an example, where Zay Flowers in a start 10, 12 team format is going to be super important. Here, he's just not going to matter. Like Jaden Reed's an absolute 0 in this format, right? We are 4th in the league analyzer. Very much just a typical dynasty league that's been going around. And ooh, you're saying it's a start 11. Are you saying it's a start 11 with running backs, like with a kicker and a defense, or is it start? Can you give me the exact starting lineup requirements? That'd be very helpful. Because whenever I say start 9, we're not including kicker, defense. I'm just including quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. But yeah, that would definitely make a little bit of a difference here with how we're valuing these players, especially like George Pickens. George Pickens and a 10-team start 11 versus a 10-team start 9. Massive, massive difference there. But so 2 wide receiver. Okay, let me know the entire starting lineup requirements, and that'll help us out a bit. There's one thing that I think you may be a victim of is falling outside of that tier of the top 7 picks, where we are sitting with the 109. And again, that 109, if we're looking at the range with Golden Igbuka, really, yeah, you're saying you start 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs. So can you just type it out like this? QB, 2 RB, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 2 flex, 1 super flex. Do you mind typing out your league settings like this and letting me know? Because that will give me a much better sense. But if it is a league where you only can start, say, 9 total offensive players, not including kicker and defense, then Golden Igbuka, these are players I do not want to draft. I want to do everything that I can to try to move from the 109 to get inside the top 7. Like if we can move from, honestly, regardless of the format, especially in a 10-team league, if we can move from that 109 to get to the 107, that would put us in a range where we get to take Ashton Genty. The 105 is going to be a little bit awkward because it's a 10-team Superflex league rather than a 12-team Superflex league. So typically I'd say the 105 in my mind is going to be Cam Ward. However, in this scenario here, when you add in Cam Ward, we have 4 viable starting quarterbacks, and it's a lot tougher to sell these quarterbacks in a 10-team Superflex league as opposed to a 12-teamer. So I'm almost more inclined to just go ahead and take the additional starter, whether that's Judkins or Henderson. So we have 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, tight ends, 2 wide receiver running with 2 regular flexes, 2 flexes with no. Okay, so yeah, start 11. Okay. So that makes a lot more sense. But start 11 format, then this makes it where that 109 I'm actually okay with. But what it does change as well is that 105, where typically I'm going to be looking at Cam Ward. I think we actually may want to change that, where I may want to be looking at Henderson or Judkins instead. Because again, if you're having to start 8 non-quarterbacks or tight ends, we are sitting right now with startable options. We're going to take Genty. We stick and pick with Genty no matter what. It's a 10-team league. Brian Thomas, Rashee Rice, Brandon Ayuk, George Pickens. We have 5 names out of the 8 that we need. I think if we wanted to put ourselves in a position in which we can maybe contend, maybe not necessarily this year, but where you can contend next year, I think you need to go ahead and you need to take Henderson, you need to take Judkins. Of course, that is operating under the assumption that none of these players with Hampton, Hunter, or Tet end up making it to us at pick 5. If the first 4 picks off the board go in this order, or just these first 4 players are gone, and we're choosing between Cam Ward, Henderson, Judkins, and a start 11 10-team Superflex format, I think you were completely justified just taking your favorite running back between Henderson and Judkins. Because you take Henderson, Judkins there, then that gets us an additional starter. The 109, you can be in a spot where you take your favorite receiver between Golden or Igbuka, whoever falls. I know some people may have the inclination to go ahead and take a tight end, whether that be Loveland or Warren, especially given the fact that this is a tight end premium format. My thought process is I think you're almost guaranteed to get one of those tight ends making it back to you at the 201. So this is pick 11. So you're going to get 2 players inside this tier. You're going to get Golden, Igbuka, Loveland, or Warren. So if you stick and pick right now and we reach on a running back at the 105 instead of taking Cam Ward, which I think is justifiable specifically with your format. Ooh, Dylan Sampson goes to the Cleveland Browns. Ooh, interesting. Interesting. Looks like, what was the Dylan Sampson receiving profile? This may have just made your decision a little bit easier to go with Henderson over Judkins. Obviously, we're not expecting that Dylan Sampson is the running back 1 here by any stretch of the imagination. But if you are looking at Dylan Sampson, specifically his college stats, you do get the 7% target share this final season at Tennessee. You do get 20 receptions. There is that outside chance that he is coming in and he is the 3rd down back for Cleveland. So I already had Henderson ranked ahead of Judkins, but I think we stick with that as well. So say you take Genty, Henderson, a wide receiver like Igbuka, Loveland, then at that point, your running back position, you have 2 top-end names that we're all right with. Wide receiver, you add another viable name. You have a long-term tight end. Quarterback, we're chilling as is with May, Lawrence, Purdy. We have the 301, 303, which actually may make a difference here in a 10-team format. Where if we're going through and looking at the 301, 10-team league, this is like pick 21. 303 is pick 23. So you could come away with like Tootin Scadaboo. Take 2 additional running backs that give you a shot at contending this year. Or even if you decided instead to take one of the tight ends that go at the beginning of the 2nd round in the NFL draft, whether you take Mason Taylor or Terrence Ferguson, you put yourself in a spot where we can actually have that value accruement going into 2026. Because if we look ahead to 2026, we have 1, 2, 3 first-round picks. So I almost think that you have the flexibility where if you really wanted to contend, you could. If you really wanted to try to take one of these 2026 first, go approach a rebuilding team like this team here, right? Their wide receiver one's Josh Downs. If you could send a 2026 first and go pick up Kyron Williams, you could put yourself in a position where you pick up Kyron with that trade, you stick and pick with your current rookie picks. You have a team that's good enough to contend right now. Now, obviously, you could play to have the juggernaut. You could sell Brandon Ayuk. You could sell George Pickens for 2026 picks. Wait until then. Have your 2025 rookies coming in to year 2 as breakouts. Have the additional assets in 2026 to make moves to really be that juggernaut roster next season. But I think because of the value you're going to get with like Genty, Henderson, probably a difference-making receiver and tight ends, if you were to just sell one of your 2026 first, my initial offer would be, hey, I'll give you my 2026 first for Kyron Williams, Devontae Adams, and settle for just Kyron Williams from that rebuilding team. I think you could be in a position where you don't even have to wait until 2026 and you can try to win right now. But I think a lot of it comes down to what you're going to get from your league mates. And if your league mates are willing to go and pivot into the future, or if you actually have a lot of people that are trying to win right this second. So I'm going to hook you up with a free trade question. I would definitely put out those feelers to see what a veteran running back would cost you in terms of those 2026 picks. And again, if it's too much, then at that point, I think you can just play for 2026. But if you can sell a singular first, make the playoffs, and have a real shot at contending with those rookies coming on strong in the second half of the season, I think you can afford to do so. But let me know if you have any more questions. I just hooked you up with that free trade voucher. Just in case you put out those feelers with your league mates, you want to see where their head's at and maybe get a couple other trade ideas. Of course, just let me know. But yeah, please let me know in the chat. And as we wait for that as well, if anybody else is in this queue waiting for me to look at their team, please let me know if you're in the live chat right now and I'll look at your team right this second. If not, we're going to go in order from oldest to newest. Okay. Let's go ahead. We'll mark that as complete. I'm just going to wait 1 second. And yeah, with Dylan Sampson going to the Browns, I think the main thing for me is because I heard some people making the argument that the reason you wanted to go Judkins over Henderson is Henderson still had to deal with Ramondre for year 1. But now that there's okay depth in Cleveland as well, I would probably just go ahead and I would take Henderson easily, which I had Henderson ranked out of him previously anyway. And then I think Dylan Sampson has to get moved down rankings. Where did we have Sampson previous to this in our ranks? We had Dylan Sampson RB9. Well, we'll see where the other running backs end up going. I liked Sampson a lot more as a prospect than Trevor Etienne, but I think Etienne just has an easier depth chart. Would y'all rather have Trevor Etienne or Dylan Sampson at this point? Etienne goes to Carolina, where you're competing with Chuba and Dowdle. You're probably the RB2 over Dowdle. Where Sampson, better running back prospect, but you have to compete with Judkins through his entire rookie contract. And you're in a worse offense. So would you rather have Judkins or would you rather have Sampson or would you rather have Etienne? Okay. Mr. Rod says, love the info. Before I made this trade to get the 2026 first. Love the info. Before this, I made a trade to get the 2026 first and this year's third to get Penix off my team since I had 3 quarterbacks. 100%. I think that was the right move to make. Specifically in your league format, especially. Keith says, off topic, just noticed the guitar in the background. What do you got hanging back there? So if you can see this background here, this is your boy at an Airbnb. The Airbnb put that guitar there for decoration purposes. I just left it. But I have no musical talent whatsoever. Not only do I have no musical talent, but people hate my musical taste, like what I like. I like the most basic music you could imagine. So yeah, I'm not the musical guy, sadly. Sadly, I'm not. But let's pivot back over and let's go oldest to newest here. Go Texas Kings Rider. Says, I've been struggling in this league, as I'm sure you can tell. Can you provide me some options to get this team on the way to fantasy relevance? Thanks for any insight/options. Okay, so this is monkeys with helmets. Dear God, what happened in this league? Look at the teams at the very bottom. This team at the bottom has, I guess maybe for whatever reason, the rookie picks aren't loading in. Okay, I'm going to need to reach out to Texas Kings Rider and ask what his rookie picks are. This is monkeys with helmets. What do we have rookie picks here? Yeah, we have a 2025 first. We need to figure out what pick this is. Let me go over and see if my reviews. Let me see if he sent us a message letting me know what his 2025 first is. Okay, we're going to wait. If he's in the chat, please let me know. This is Texas Kings Rider. And let me know what your 2025 first is. I also sent him a message on the site. So we're going to skip by that one and wait for his response. But we're going to go over to Meet the Flocker. Longtime member of the flock, of course. There's any moves I can make for 2027 first. Okay. Brother, you already know what I'm going to be saying here. You already know we're going to look at this team and go, your bar chart's literally off the page. We have more value on our team than the bottom 4 teams in this league combined. There are very, very, very few moves that we can be looking to make with this. We have no rookie picks. This is a 1 quarterback start 10 PPR non-tight end premium league. We are sitting with Josh Allen, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan, Achane, Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving's the RB4 on this team. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown's the wide receiver 4 on this team. Marvin Harrison's your wide receiver 5. Trey McBride, Tucker Kraft. So if you wanted to start making plays for 2027 first round picks, in my mind, like any of these green players here, any player labeled as green or yellow for your roster, they're untouchable. There is absolutely no reason for you to ever sell off any of the elite level assets. When you have this much of an advantage over the rest of your league, the only job that you have is to hold on to the elite assets, is to go out there and overpay for the elite assets. And so it's a start 10 format. We're starting Allen, Gibbs, Bijan, Chase, Jefferson, Neighbors, St. Brown, McBride, Achane, Bucky, and then Marvin Harrison's on our bench. We don't have any 2025 picks. We don't have any 2026 picks. So we actually may need the depth of guys like Jaden Reed, Jalen Tolbert. So I don't realistically know what there is to do. I don't think you have the depth to the point where it makes sense for you to go out there and sell Jaden Reed for 2027 second and third. Like, you may actually need to start Jaden Reed some weeks here. There's no reason for you to tear down from a green player to a yellow player and pick up an additional future first. So the only thing to do is make sure your league mates are having fun and paying their league dues, because you're just going to be collecting their league dues for the next 5 years. So I'm not selling any I'm not selling any of these players for 2027 first. There's just simply no reason for you to do it. But also, you may know a thing that I don't, because I've never had a dynasty league look like this in my entire life. None of my dynasty teams, full transparency with everybody, I've never had the wide receiver 1, the wide receiver 2, the wide receiver 5, the wide receiver 6, the wide receiver 14, the RB1, the RB2, the RB4, the RB7, then the QB1. So, I think I'm going to hook you up with some free trade questions, just in case maybe you have a different dynasty league that we can be looking at. But if you're getting the trade itch, I would join another league. This league, you've done everything you need to do. You just need to sit on your hands at this point. Okay. But let me go ahead and refresh real quick. And again, if there's anybody in the chat that has a team review waiting for me, let me know and we can go ahead and skip to that one. But for now, we are just going to be going in order from oldest to newest. Now, this is another team that has a juggernaut. I'm sorry, this is another league that has a juggernaut in it. However, it's not ours, and it's not to the same extent of the last league that we looked at. This is from Riley. This is Silence of the Lamb. This is going to be a 1 quarterback, 12 team, start 9, half PPR, non-tight end premium league. We are sitting at pick 3. We don't have rookie picks. All our value is going to be from our wide receivers. Looking at the depth, we don't really have many players on our team either. This is a super interesting spot to be in. Quarterback, we have Mahomes, McCarthy. There's really nothing to do, right? Is Mahomes Jalen Hurts at this point in fantasy? No. But he's still somebody that we're going to be able to start every single week without hesitation, while at the same time giving us long-term value, right? So we're still not stressing about having Patrick Mahomes. That's for damn sure. McCarthy, super solid. Quarterback 2. Going ahead and looking at what we have at running back, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 startable guys this season. And in terms of long-term value, I think you can almost assume that Kamara and Aaron Jones are going to be zeros in 2026. I know that's an aggressive statement to have. Maybe they're not zeros, but they're not going to be guys that we're super excited about. We have Jefferson, Lamb, A.J. Brown, Rome Odunze, Jawan Jennings as a little bit of depth. I'm assuming we have to start a tight end here, right? Even though we just have Kyle Pitts. So here's my thought process with this team. This is a team where you're set up to win this league this year. We have to start 7 total running backs / receivers. We're starting Breece, Taylor, Jefferson, Lamb, A.J. Brown, Kamara, and then either like Aaron Jones, Rome Odunze. And we're going to be cycling through like the Aaron Jones, Rome, Javonte, Jawan Jennings this next year. But beyond that, if we assume Kamara and Aaron Jones drop off in 2026, if we assume A.J. Brown maybe begins to slide, I'm not saying it's going to slide in 2025, but maybe in 2026, we begin to see some type of slowdown. Your team probably doesn't have enough juice to contend next season, at least in my mind. However, we'll have a bunch of value. Like Breece will still have value next offseason. Taylor will still have value. Jefferson, Lamb, A.J. Brown, Rome will all still have value, clearly. But we don't have any 2026 first, 2026 second to bring in new talent, to bring in guys that I don't know, are going to be able to replenish what we lose with these veteran running backs. So I think this is a very clear scenario where you're contending this season, and then next offseason, you're burning this down. Next offseason, we're selling Jefferson. We're selling Lamb. We're selling A.J. Brown. We're selling Brees. We're selling Taylor. We're selling every player on this team, maybe not named Rome Odunze, next offseason. But there's no reason to do so right this second. You're really set up to contend. The 311, 411, there's realistically no rookie you're going to be able to take in this range that's going to be able to help you win this year. So, I mean, if you could go ahead and if you could go to this team at the very bottom, complete dumpster fire, their running back one's Brian Robinson, wide receiver one's Josh Downs. If you could send them like the 311, 411 and bring in Evan Ingram, and all of a sudden just give you a viable tight end if Kyle Pitts doesn't end up working out, I'm completely fine in doing so. I probably want to hold on to our 2026 third and fourth just in case we need to trade for something during the season. But I think you're rolling into the season with this team as is. And just the main thing is you need to tear it down next offseason. So please hold on to our 2027 first. Hold on to our 2027 second. Because the goal should be in 2027, we're going to earn the 101 to really start our rebuild. If this team still had 2026 picks, I don't think you'd have to be planning on rebuilding next offseason, but you're just going to have no way to replenish what you end up losing with those veteran running backs with Kamara and Aaron Jones, unless you trade your future picks, which I don't want to put you in that compromising position. So I really hope you have not traded your 2027 first. And if you haven't traded your 2027 first, you should be good to just rebuild next offseason and win right now. I mean, there's nothing really other than selling your 311, 411 for like an Evan Ingram type tight end that you could even really do on this team, to be honest. But I wish I had more for you. I think it's a great team, especially if we're looking to contend. But again, I think you just got to rebuild next offseason. Let's move this over. Jason says, Mason, if I submit my team, will you do it live? Yeah, again, if anybody's in this live stream and has a review pending, just let me know your Flock username and I'll jump and do it right away. If not, we're going to go in order of the other people. But if anybody's here and wants their team reviewed live, I'd be super happy to check it out. That way you can ask me questions and go back and forth. But we're going to check this out for Harris. Team name, who needs a tight end? Where are we at? We're at third in the league analyzer. Year 8 of this Dynasty League, but first year with the Superflex format. I would like to get Hampton with my first pick, but believe that he wouldn't be there. Maybe Henderson if he lands in a good spot, but I don't want to reach. I feel like it'd be a waste to grab Ward. I try to trade back and trade Gino. Well, really appreciate you, my guy. Let me hook you up with a couple free trade question vouchers. I'm sorry we're just now looking at this, but I really wanted to make sure that I could give you the best rookie draft strategy advice possible. I didn't want to like look at this on Tuesday and then all of a sudden whatever I said regarding the NFL draft was just completely wrong by Thursday, and then the advice doesn't matter at all. So looking at the third team in the league analyzer, it is a Superflex start 8 format, half point tight end premium league. So this is a league in which quarterback is incredibly important. If the league settings are correct that this is pulling in, you only start 5 total running back wide receivers. You're starting 2 quarterbacks, a tight end, and 5 total running back receivers. So if you were able to have Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels, you could expect that over 40% of your production weekly is coming from quarterback. And it doesn't matter what you're throwing out there at running back 2, you're going to be able to win weeks regardless. So this isn't just a league where quarterbacks are valuable because it's a super flex league. This is a league where quarterbacks are extremely valuable because you don't start a ton of wide receivers as well. Because if you can only start a total of 5 running backs and receivers, when you get to the names like Jerry Jeudy, they're really not going to be making the lineup for contending teams outside of bye weeks. Whereas if you're looking at like a start 10, a start 11 super flex format, then Jerry Jeudy is an every week starter for a contending roster. So inherently, because these depth receivers are less valuable in your format, that's going to make the percentage of output go up for the elite level QBs. So looking at the quarterbacks that you have here, we are sitting with Daniels, Love, Geno. Completely fine quarterback room. You can see that in your league, you have the number 1 ranked quarterback room. I don't think it's by a wide margin. Like the number 2 team is just the one with Josh Allen. The number 3 team has Caleb, Herbert, Fields. But regardless, you're in a really strong spot at the quarterback position. It wouldn't stop me from taking Cam Ward depending on where you were picking. Like if you had the 105 and we thought Cam Ward was the best player available, I would just go ahead and I would just take Cam Ward. But that's not the case. Instead, we have the 103. And since we're sitting here with the 103, I think you have a little bit more flexibility than that. I think that you're able to go ahead and you're able to instead... Ooh, let me pull up the rankings again. Sorry about that. I think you're able to look at Travis Hunter. I think you're able to look at Ted McMillan. I'm sorry, I need to log out and log back in. That way we can get the tiers up here. Okay. Why is that doing that? Dashboard, create rankings. But regardless, I mean, we can look at it without the tiers. Doesn't matter as much. If you're looking at Hampton, Hunter, Tet, all of them are in play for you at 3. I think you just go with whoever your personal preference is. If you're looking at my rankings, I have that as Hunter, but if you wanted to go Tet, not going to fault you for it. The 201, 203, God, why is this not loading correctly? We're going to have to... I'm afraid of logging out. Just, you know what we're going to do? We're going to log in on Safari. Sorry. The page went stale, and it's not logging me in to see the rankings. Okay, here we go. Now they're up. So if we're looking at what we will have at like pick 13, I think because of your league with how much upside, with how much upside you have, if you have those 2 elite level quarterbacks, I'm fine taking the swing on like a Jackson Dart. Even if you don't need another quarterback, even if Geno is your QB3, you bring in Dart, say with the 201, and then there at the 203, you're bringing in a player like Caleb Johnson. You're bringing in a player like RJ Harvey, or maybe if one of these tight ends end up falling, you can have all the upside in the world at quarterback, have one of the better wide receiver cores in this league, assuming we don't get Hampton and assuming it's Travis Hunter. If Hampton falls, we take Hampton. Still take like Caleb Johnson at the 203 and have running back depth beyond Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris, Rachaad White. Now, of course, going into the season, running back 2 is going to be a big concern. Like running back 2, week 1, you may end up having to start like either Najee Harris or Caleb Johnson, and neither way would you be that excited about it. But if you're getting the 26 points per game from Jaden Daniels in a league in which you only start 8 guys and you don't have to put a bunch of wide receivers and you don't have to put a bunch of running backs into your lineup, I think you can be just fine. What I would almost look to do is with that 103, if you end up walking away with the receiver, whether that's Ted McMillan, whether that's Travis Hunter, but if Hampton doesn't fall to you and we take a receiver, I think you can look at one of these depth options on our roster like Jerry Jeudy. And if you wanted to try to trade Jeudy with a running back and go get an RB upgrade, or even just send Jeudy straight up for a running back, that could make sense. The difficulty you're going to find is when we're selling one of these receivers for an RB. Typically, the easiest way to do so is, I mean, if you're finding a rebuilding roster and we were sitting with like a Rome Odunze and we send them Rome and we pick up whatever veteran RB they have. We send them Rome and we pick up Barkley. But the wide receivers we'd be looking to trade, the depth names of Ayuk and Judy, we don't have any interest from rebuilding teams to go and get those veteran wide receivers. So it puts you in a little bit of an awkward spot where instead you almost just need to find somebody that has more than enough help at running back and just needs a receiver. And yes, we'll talk about Royals in just 1 second. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to focus on like, how can we make a move for this team to maybe solve running back without having to reach on like Henderson in the draft? Because we look at all these teams and it's not like there are really any rosters. I mean, maybe this one, maybe running back where they're sitting with CMC, Chuba, Brian Robinson. They have the 104, the 106. We can kind of assume that they're going to be taking like a Judkins with one of these picks. What would be very exciting if you could pull off is if you could find a way to move up to that 106. Because if you move up to the 106, then at that point, you're able to get Trevion Henderson. You're able to get Judkins. You can snag one of those running backs while still getting the elite wide receiver prospect at the 103. If we're looking at what we would want to trade between the 201, 203 to make that swap, I would probably prefer to send the 203 because the 201, I feel you're almost guaranteed to get RJ Harvey or Caleb Johnson. If you send that 203, that may end up instead being Jaden Higgins or Luther Burden. So let's see if we can come up with a trade to get us to that 106. Trade calculator. They receive, say, Jerry Jeudy. So that depth receiver, they also receive an early second. And we get back the 106. Is there any shot at this? We probably end up needing to add something else. Throw in the third as well. So we send the 203, the 303, Jerry Jeudy to try to get to the 106. Because if you're able to make a move like that, or maybe it's not the 106, maybe it's the 107. You trade that, the same deal for the 107. 106 doesn't matter. You get Henderson, you get Judkins. You're then able to go best player available with Tet McMillan, 103. 106, you get Henderson or Judkins. The 201, you can still take Caleb Johnson or RJ Harvey. You go into the season with Daniels, Love, Geno at quarterback. Jacobs, Henderson, Caleb Johnson. Wide receiver, you have Ladd, Higgins, Ayuk, and like Tet McMillan. And then tight end, you're sitting with Hawkinson, Kincaid, Jonnu, Ferguson. So again, the big thing that I would be trying to do is take one of your depth receivers, that 203, move up inside the top 7 picks, even if that means we have to sell the 303, the 403, throw all these crap little pieces on top of it. Just because that way, if we can get a player that's going to move the needle at running back, it allows us at the 103 and the 201 to just go with best players available. And yeah, I don't think you have to reach on Cam Ward at the 103, as you already discussed. But I hooked you up with a couple free trade question vouchers. So if you have any of those exact trades that you want to send my way, I'd be super happy to take a look at them for you. But I do hope I was able to help you out in some way here. And again, thank you so much for being a member of the flock. But let's move this over and let's look at some of the recent picks here. So Elliott goes to the Tennessee Titans at pick 136. I don't want him. Jalen Royals going to the Chiefs. Obviously, great landing spot. The thing is, if you look at the historical hit rate of these wide receivers past pick 100, like 90% of the time, these guys aren't going to be doing anything. Like, are we excited about Jalen Lane? Are we excited about Arian Smith? Are we excited about Dante Thornton? No, we're not excited about any of these guys. Are we excited about Jameer Dyke? So, like, and y'all know I did not like Alec Ayomanor before the NFL draft. So maybe I'm just, I don't know, biased, but I'm looking at him just saying, like, why should we be excited now? If people were hyping up, like if the people you watched on YouTube instead were hyping up Arian Smith before the draft, like, I'm still not excited about Arian Smith. I mean, it's a decent little landing spot to go to Tennessee, just because if you're looking at the depth chart, relatively it is empty, and you do have upside with Cam Ward. But I'd rather take the shots on the running backs in this range. Like, definitely make sure you are taking, obviously, like Tootin Scadaboo over them. Jalen Royals, maybe we do end up needing to move in our rankings, just because it is such a good landing spot to go to the Chiefs. I already had Alec and Royals at 12 and 13. I'll move Royals ahead of Alec at this point. I'll flip them. But I think I'd still prefer Pat Bryant, who gets much better capital and at the same time gets a great landing spot in Denver. And then obviously these guys that are getting like second round capital, just simply Alec and Royals can't touch. So, I mean, maybe we move Royals up a little bit, but where are they in the overall ranks as well? I probably prefer Pat Bryant over like Dylan Sampson now. Royals. Can you all spam in the chat? Would you rather have Royals round 4 with the Chiefs, or I guess we'd rather have Royals over Sampson? Andy over ETN. I'd probably rather have Alec over these guys. But it is absolutely crazy that Shedeur Sanders hasn't been drafted yet. Has there ever been anything like this with the Shedeur Sanders situation? We're picking 138. I mean, I can't think of anything. But we'll move Royals and Alec up just a bit. But again, I would much prefer trying to take a shot at the running backs. I'd rather have the round 2 tight ends. I'd rather have the round 2 quarterback. I'd rather have a receiver like Pat Bryant that maybe people are less excited about coming into the draft, but gets more respect with the capital and gets arguably a better landing spot as well. But let's go ahead and let's dive into our next team. And Jason says, just submitted, Scott Jr. is the username. Thank you, my friend. Let's go ahead and let's pull this up. Let me refresh so we can get some of these. Okay. Scott Jr. Ooh, we got an MFL league. Let's freaking go. So I'm sure you maybe already know this. I played on MFL exclusively from about 2014 through 2021, maybe. And this is like when I fell in love with Dynasty. Like, obviously I started the YouTube channel in 2019. So you could tell that I made multiple videos every single day with literally 0 people watching for years. Like, clearly I've loved Dynasty for a very long time, but the obsession I had for Dynasty in that time period of like 2014 through like 2020, I was way more obsessed with it than I am now. So like when I see an MFL screenshot, I go like, it's probably about time to move over to Sleeper, but it does bring me some good feelings. But Jason, can you please let me know the league settings of this team? And in terms of the starting lineup requirements, in terms of scoring, how many teams are in the league, and any additional weird things that I would have to think about. And I know there are probably a lot of people that are watching this right now that have never seen an MFL screenshot before. So it's going to be very difficult to follow. I'm going to try my best for y'all. I'm going to try my best. And also, how many people in the live stream would find it useful for us giving y'all the ability to link with MFL? Because my thing is, I would assume that like 1% of the people on the site play on MFL now, and that percentage is probably shrinking every year. But this is going to be a 12-team start 11 half-point tight end premium format full PPR. So this is like pretty much exactly what all my MFL teams were set up as well, league settings wise. So wide receiver depth going to be super important here, of course. Quarterback going to make up a slightly smaller percentage of our starting lineup output as opposed to start 9, start 10 super flex league. So quarterback still important, don't get me wrong, but it's not like it's everything here, right? But let's go ahead and let's dive into the quarterback position. We were sitting with Michael Penix, CJ Stroud, Caleb Williams. So at this point, we can go ahead and we can look at my rankings on the site, but I've moved Caleb up quite, I don't want to say dramatically, but I flipped him and Mahomes. Caleb Williams is my QB6 at this point. I think the situation that he has in Chicago, not only with the coaching staff, but also if you're looking at the supporting cast of Rome, DJ Moore, Loveland, Burden, like he is set up for success. So in my opinion, we arguably have 2 quarterback ones for the long term with Caleb and Stroud. And then Michael Penix, a great QB3. I don't think there's anything to do at quarterback. We're sitting pretty. And then, Jason, could you also let me know what rookie picks you have as well? That would help a ton. Because hopefully we have rookie picks. We're going to contend this year because running back, it's a disaster. Jerome Ford's like the RB3 now in Cleveland. Trey Benson, Jonathan Brooks. I'm sure when we drafted them last year, looked like they were going to make a difference. Now at this point, it's very difficult to project out either guy. At best, Trey Benson's just a handcuff in Arizona. But if we don't have any rookie picks, the running back position is probably going to be an uphill battle where we're not going to be able to do much. Going over to receiver, these guys like Flowers in this format actually make a pretty big difference, right? Just because if you are looking at the need to get 11 guys in your starting lineup, players like Zay Flowers, Jerry Jeudy will be weekly starters on contending teams. So we have Flowers, Jeudy, Garrett Wilson, Xavier Worthy. We have 4 startable receivers. I would say that really the only guys that I wouldn't be willing to throw on the trade block on a rebuilding roster is like Worthy. I think we can just keep on building around. It's not like you would need to sell Flowers. It's not like you would need to sell Wilson. But if we decided to pivot over to a rebuild, I wouldn't be opposed to just throwing them on the block and seeing what we could get. And I don't think, unless you have a bunch of rookie picks, I don't think you can contend with this team. I'm going ahead and looking at what we have at tight end. We were sitting with Hawkinson, Kraft. So tight end premium format, right? We can throw one of these tight ends into the flex spot. But Jason, do you not have any 2025 picks? Because if you don't have any 2025 picks, yeah, I think we have to pivot over to a rebuild. And if we do pivot over to a rebuild, it's kind of an easy spot to do so just because quarterback with Penix going into year 2, Caleb going into year 2, Stroud going into year 3. Obviously, we're not having to sell any of the quarterbacks. Tight ends, I would probably throw... maybe I'm not getting all the messages because I've seen people say in the chat now multiple times that I'm like missing their messages. Do you mind letting me know one more time what your 2025 picks are? Because on my screen, I'm not seeing anything. And yeah, maybe YouTube on my end's bugging, but there have been multiple times where people said that they sent me messages and sent me a message and I didn't see anything. Let me see. TT Warriors says Sam Howell traded to the Vikings. Jason says sent again. Let me know if you got it. I did not get it. Let me close this and open up YouTube on a different window. I will show you what YouTube says on my screen. Yeah, if you've sent what 2025 picks you have, this is what the YouTube chat looks like for me. So I'm not getting that. Maybe if you message me on the site, which is crazy that the website maybe more reliable than the YouTube live stream chat. Okay, perfect. We see the picks now. Okay, here we go. Jason says I'm missing like half the chat. Yeah, I that's what it's good to know now that I'm not like going crazy, that for whatever reason YouTube's not showing me half y'all's chat. But we have the 106, the 109, 201, 206, 306, and 303. So 106 puts us in a range where we can get access to one of these top running backs, right? Like we're able to go through and we're able to take, we can take Henderson, we can take Judkins. Does that turn our team around into being a contender? Probably not. 109, we're going to be in a range of Golden, Igbuka, the tight ends. I would almost say this is a range of like future value where we're not going to be able to bank on any of these guys moving the needle for us right now. 201, I'm just going hypothetically. If we stick and pick here, can this team contend? 201, if you really wanted to contend, we take RJ Harvey. 206, we go Kyle Williams. 303, 306, not moving the needle regardless. So if we just add to this team, right? Start 11 format. Quarterback, we're great. Quarterback, we're not going to be put in a position where we can't contend even if we don't do anything in the draft. Quarterback, tight end, we can contend regardless. If you don't move the 109, you're not contending this year. The easiest solution, and this is what I would say to anybody that has the 109, is do anything you can to get inside the top 7 picks. Because if you can move that 109, get to pick 7, and then all of a sudden we bring in Trevion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, and then like the 201, you bring in RJ Harvey, then this is a team with a good quarterback room, a good tight end room. Running back, we have Judkins, Henderson, RJ Harvey. We can contend with that running back core, especially like Trey Benson, RB4. I mean, and maybe Connor goes down and Benson is viable, right? But that puts us within swinging distance, and it gives us assets that have long-term value. So even if we actually don't win this year, even if we realize we have to pivot over to a rebuild in week 6, it's not like you have to sell those veteran running backs. So if we could get to pick 7, that would solve a lot of these problems. And then at that point in the start 11 format, we'd have our 2 quarterbacks. We'd have the 2 tight ends. We need to be filling 7 spots. Say 2 of those 3 running backs are startable immediately. We need 5 spots left. And we have Flowers, Judy, Garrett Wilson, Xavier Worthy. So would you be a strong contender? No, I think, but you would give yourself a shot in week 1. Let's go ahead and let's try to figure out what that trade would look like to try to move up into the top 7 picks. So if we're looking at where the teardrops are as well, like the 206, where you're looking at maybe like the Kyle Williams, Trey Harris, Tootin, Scattaboo, Jalen Milroe range. I guess since it's a start 11 format, like Kyle Williams could be a player that actually you bring in and he does make a difference and he moves the needle just a bit. I mean, going from the 109 to the 105 would be great. The issue is I just don't think you have enough value on the team. Like realistically, if we were trying to come up with a trade for us to get to pick 9 to pick 7, I think it's easier to imagine us selling like the 109, the 206, the 303 to get to the 107. So they receive the 109. We received the 107. And we add a mid-second. And we add that. honestly, the 303, 306, it doesn't particularly matter. We just add a third. If we, I know it says that we lose this, but I haven't updated my rankings with the rookie picks yet, with now how we know the tiers have shaken up. But if we essentially here trade like Matthew Golden or Egbuka, Kyle Williams, and a third to get up to Judkins to give us a shot to contend while at the same time not sacrificing a ton of long-term value, I think that's a lot more reasonable than like if we try to ask for the 105. It's saying fair trade. I mean, you can ask for it. I would send the same offer for the 105 and the 107, but I agree with you. I think you probably need to move on from the 109 if you're going to give yourself a shot to actually contend. But I think if you can do so, you're in striking range where you're not having to pivot over and look to a rebuild right now. You're not having to pull the ripcord. And actually, the rookie picks are here. I'm stupid. I should have seen this immediately. I don't think you're strong enough for us to all of a sudden take those 2026 picks we have and start selling the 2026 picks to pick up additional wide receiver starters right this second. Because there is a world in which maybe the rookies start off slow. Maybe you end up getting like a Garrett Wilson injury. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, well, we're going to have to rebuild for 2026 regardless. But when you have the rookie running backs, it doesn't matter because, I mean, they are perfect rebuilding assets anyway. So I would try to make that play to get us to pick 7, to get us to pick 5 from pick 9. Take those rookie running backs where we can. Any merit to the idea about the 109 for a veteran wide receiver, or would you still try to say young? So my issue with trading rookie picks, whether it's the 109 or your future first, for veterans right now is I don't know if you are a contender. I think if you trade for like, if you put yourself in a position to take Judkins, if things break right, we can contend, and maybe during the season, we can look to trade a 2026 first and pick up an additional veteran wide receiver. But there's also a world, like I said, where this team doesn't have the juice. This team has to pivot over to a rebuild. And if we sold off that future value in the form of those rookie picks to get veteran producers and it ends up not working out for us, we're kind of screwed. So I think you need to keep the flexibility. That's a move that I would be making during the season. And I still think you have to stay young just because the youth, especially with those players, I'm not telling you to trade for 2026 picks because the second you start just trading for 2026 picks, you are throwing in the towel on this year. I think you try to get to a range where we can take these guys that are actually going to move the needle for us, such as Judkins. That's what's going to give you the flexibility on this. But let me know if you have any more questions. I know we are a little bit all over the place with that. I know I had to go on a little monologue about MFL. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. But yeah, like I said, please let me know in the live chat if you have any more questions right now. I'd be super happy to answer. And if you need to ask the question multiple times so it pops up for me for whatever reason, by all means, go right ahead. And we're going to mark this as complete. We can come back to it. I do want to answer this trade question real quick from Weeboy Baller. Says, makes sense to trade if no good landing spots. So if we're looking at the 110, this is going to be in a range which you have like Loveland, Egbuka, Matthew Golden, Tyler Warren. So if you're telling me you're picking up an early to mid 2026 first and a late second this year, 100%. I'm going to go ahead. I may make this trade just for the straight up early to mid 2026 first, regardless. Okay. And let me exit this. And for whatever reason, this is not starting off. Am I going to have to log in, log out? This may be a disaster, ladies and gentlemen. Session is still running. All right. We're in a good spot. But Jason says, what do you think about moving Hawk? Is he overvalued? I don't think so. I think if you're going to be looking at Hawkinson, you want to hold on to him for now. If you get to week 5, if you get to week 6 and we started off 2 and 4 and you want to pivot over to a rebuild, then at that point, I'm completely fine selling him. But I think Hawk is going to give you the optionality of contending this year. So I'm going to hold on to him. On the YouTube chat, I think there's a filter on numbers. Most text seems to make it through. Try telling your subs to preface numbers with some English text first. And I think, okay, that's perfect. Thank you, my guy. But let me go over to this. So I am a little bit concerned that maybe the site lost our timestamp when we're going to be sending this out. So I'm going to really try to just get to people's questions in that are actually here in the chat. Kano says, you can look at my team. Flock name is Kano. Perfect. Really appreciate you, my guy. Let me hook you up with a couple free trade questions as well. But if somebody is sitting here waiting for a review and your team is here, please let me know right now so I can make sure that your review is seen by you. So we're going to get to Kano's team right now. Then we're going to get to Colin's team right after. And Shadur just got picked. I have to see this. Round 5. People are saying pick is in by the Browns. Let me pull up Twitter. I'm sorry, Kano. We're going to get to your team right now, but let's look at this. Shadur Sanders. Okay. There have been some pretty funny memes lately. Like, this one's pretty good. Quinn Ewers is killing a new animal every hour he's not drafted, and we're all talking about Shadur Sanders. This is pretty funny. Shadur Sanders has become the only draft pick in pro sports history to spend more on his draft night setup than the total value of his first contract. Are we? It did. Did he get drafted? Shadur drafted to the Browns. The next generation of primetime is here. I would love to know, what do y'all think? Oh, this is crazy. Who's more likely to be the starting quarterback for the Browns between Sanders and Gabriel? Gabriel round 3 pick versus Sanders round 5. Yeah, Dylan Gabriel went pick 94. Nuts. Okay, let's move this over. Okay, we are going to get to this team for Kano. Then afterwards, we're going to look at CJ's team. And then afterwards, we are going to be looking at Hunter Ham / Bottle Caps team. And which, I don't know if I see that one. Oh, Hunter Ham is down here. Okay, perfect. So we're going to go in that order. But Kano says, thinking of drafting a running back for a reload if no value guys fall, but not sure if we should grab one of the top 2 tight ends with the running back help my team needs. I think we already hooked you up with a free trade question. Okay, just confirming. We are CD's nuts. We are the 4th team in the league analyzer. Pretty even league overall. I mean, there are the 2 teams ahead of the rest of us, but then teams 3 through about 7 are all almost identical when it comes to the value. But this is going to be a 12-team start 10, 1 quarterback format. So wide receiver depth matters a ton here. I mean, we're starting, say, 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, and then you're starting to combine 8 running backs and receivers in a 12-team format. So what is that? That's like 96 total running back wide receivers started across the league. So if you're looking at this, guys like Ricky Pearsall, Jerry Jeudy, they are extremely important in your league format. Like, just realistically thinking, you need to start 8 running backs, wide receivers. We have a decently deep wide receiver core with Lamb, A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, Jerry Jeudy, Ricky Pearsall. I'm sorry, that's 5 guys. We have no running backs. We're still missing 3 starters here. It is a half-point tight end premium format. So us sitting here at the 110, this is going to give us some optionality. 106, I think, is going to be super simple, right? I would say pick 7 is going to be the tier cutoff when it comes to these super flex drafts. However, 1 quarterback where we're going to assume that Cam Ward doesn't go, pick 6 should be the cutoff. You're going to get whoever falls between Trevion Henderson and Judkins. I would assume that Judkins is probably going to be the player that ends up falling, right? So say we bring in Judkins 106. The 110 is more like the 111 in a super flex draft. So we're going to be looking at one of the last guys of the Matthew Golden, Egbuka, Loveland, Tyler Warren tier. Typically, if like a team sitting with a pick at the top of this tier, so in a 1 quarterback format, you have pick 7 or 8. In a super flex format, you have pick 8 or 9. I would be doing everything I can just to try to move up into the Henderson Judkins range. But because you're at the very bottom of this at the 110, I think it's going to be a lot tougher for you to jump because you'd have to jump the entire tier to get into a new one. So I think you just stick and pick whoever falls to the very bottom here, especially knowing that here at the 110, you could use Loveland. You could use Tyler Warren. You could use Egbuka. You can use anybody who falls to you here. Because again, you just have to fill out so many wide receiver starters that I understand that we need running back help more than anything. But at the same time, we just need starters, period, given the depth of your league. Going ahead and looking at what we have at the 202. The 202, I think we're going to assume that this is more like the 204 in a super flex league, unless maybe you end up getting Cam Ward off the board. Let me see. Where is Cam Ward ranked in the... Yeah, maybe Cam Ward goes. I don't know. But kind of regardless here, did this just log me out as well? Yes, it did. Okay. Let's go ahead and pull this back up. Sorry. We're going to go rookies, 1 quarterback, sort by... Why did it log? Why do I not have access to this? Did it log me into a different account? What account did I log into? Okay, here we go. We're good to go. Let's go Dynasty 1 quarterback, rookie rankings, and let's just look at expert. So we are sitting with the 202. So pick 14. Let's just look at my ranks. I need to move Caleb Johnson ahead of Jaden Higgins and Luther Burden. But regardless, you're kind of going to be in a range of, let's look at it from a Superflex perspective. I know, I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth. I've been on top of the Superflex rankings more than 1 quarterback. But Jackson Dart's not going to have gone. Maybe Ward goes, but you're going to be looking at whoever falls between this tier of RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson, Jaden Higgins, Luther Burden. So again, this is very similar to the situation that you have at pick 10, that you find yourself with the 202 in this one quarterback format is that since you're not at the top of this tier where maybe it would be kind of easy to just move up 1 to 2 spots, get into a new one, and you're going to be at the bottom, it would be difficult for you to jump all the way up there. So I think you're almost just in a situation there as well where you just need to stick and pick. Almost every single one of these scenarios, you are at the last spot in the tier, which is great news, but it also just limits the amount of flexibility that you have because you're kind of already where you need to be. I think you go with at pick 6, whoever falls between Trevion, Judkins, or of course, if any of the big 3 fall like Hampton, Hunter, Tet. At pick 10, I think you're going to be going with whoever falls between Golden, Igbuka, Loveland, and Warren. Keep in mind, it's going to be a 1 quarterback format, so Ward's not going to have gone. So this is really, pick 10 is really like Warren here at 11. And then 202, keep in mind, it's a 1 quarterback format. So this is really like pick 16 if Ward and Dart don't go. You're just taking whoever falls between Harvey, Caleb Johnson, Jaden Higgins, and Luther Burden. And even if you end up walking away with, say, like Judkins, then Tyler Warren, and then Luther Burden, it still adds a potential starter for you at every position. And I know maybe wide receivers are strength, and maybe it seems like we need running back a little bit more. But specifically due to the depth requirements in this league, I'm completely fine adding a wide receiver like Luther Burden, completely fine adding a wide receiver like Higgins. And in the 211, 306, if you want to put yourself in a position in which you can contend, you really only do need to add in one more running back after you stick and pick the best 3 options at 106, 110, 202. So if you could find a reasonable price to send the 211 and the 306 and go get an additional running back here, you're going to have to find a rebuilding team, and you're not going to be getting a great RB. But like, obviously, this goes without saying, if you could trade your that late second and your third to go get Chuba Hubbard from this rebuilding team that Shaheed's their wide receiver too, I would look to do so in a heartbeat. If we could go ahead and even DeAndre Swift completely dodges everybody in the NFL draft. If you could trade your late second and your third to go get DeAndre Swift, I think that's another spot where it'd make a lot of sense, where if you stick and pick at your top 3, say we have Judkins and Swift at the running back position going into the year, that at least puts you striking distance to go ahead and contend. Would you be super strong? No, but I mean, your 2 running back spots in a start 10 league, so 20% of your lineup maybe is a little bit underweight compared to the rest of your league. But it gives you the flexibility to try to contend right now. And if you start off like 4-2 and you go, Mason, I'm 4-2, I just need an extra running back, then maybe at that point during the season, you can sell a 2026 first, and you can go out there and you can pick up an additional running back that's going to move the needle for you then. It's way too early to sell your 2026 picks, however, right now, just because we don't know if we're going to be able to be a contending team. I would lean in the direction of contending, especially because if you were to rebuild, you are going to have to move off some of these assets like AJ Brown, DJ Moore, Jerry Jeudy, and I don't necessarily want to do that. So I think you're in a great spot. Stick and pick rookie picks, 211, 306. Trade these to a rebuilding roster for a running back like DeAndre Swift, for a running back like Brian Robinson. If we get up to Chuba Hubbard, obviously we would, but much easier said than done. And that gives us the flexibility to then be able to go into the season and say, if things break our way, we can contend. If not, we have a lot of long-term value anyway with the rookies that we just took, and we can pivot to a rebuilder in week 6 during the year. But please let me know, Kano, if you have any additional questions with this. I'd be happy to get back to you about anything. I did hook you up with a couple free trade questions as well. So when you're negotiating with your league mates about this, and if they give you any offers or anything that you find interesting, feel free to shoot it my way, and I'd be super happy to take a look at it for you. But I think that's all I have. And yes, it's going to be exciting to see what happens in Cleveland at quarterback. But it's how many times did the Browns have the opportunity to draft him? Teams, let's go. Cleveland Browns. So Shadur Sanders was there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th. He was their 7th selection. So in reality, is probably nothing. He may never start a single game. But you can say the same thing about like Dylan Gabriel, right? Okay. But yeah, Kano, again, I really do appreciate you. And if you have any more of those questions, feel free to shoot it my way. Okay. Now let's go ahead and pull this up and Jer Bear says, well, I loved your redraft content. Well, for sure, follow your Dynasty content now. Let's go. Yeah, my guy, I've been doing Dynasty stuff way longer than redraft stuff. I started making Dynasty stuff on YouTube January 2019. Yeah, the initial redraft channel actually was a Dynasty channel, and it had to get turned into a redraft channel. But I think our next team that we said we were going to look at was CJ88 for Colin. So let's go ahead. Let's pull up CJ88 for Colin here. Team name, the gang wins a game. Hopefully this is It's Always Sunny reference. But we are at 7th in the league analyzer. This is going to be a 10-team start, 8-1 quarterback format. So not a super deep league at all, right? I mean, if we take out quarterback and tight end, you're going to be starting a total of 60 running back wide receivers across the entire league. We are down here at 7th in the league analyzer, so not a super pretty spot to be in. But this is one of those formats in which I don't particularly care a ton about our wide receiver depth. Like the league that we looked at right before this, George Pickens, that profile of a player is going to be extremely important. Whereas here in your league, a true contending roster isn't going to need to rely on George Pickens every week, right? And you can almost say the same thing with these guys like Brandon Ayuk. Like for reference, looking at maybe some of the top teams in this league, like this team that's contending, it's a start 8 league. So they're starting Jalen Hurts, they're starting Saquon Barkley, Kyren Williams, then Jefferson, London, Ladd, Harrison, and TJ Hawkinson. Like a player like George Pickens isn't really going to make a big difference on a league like this. But anyway, before we dive into our roster exactly, definitely want to address the fact that we are going to be heavily incentivized to do everything we can to try to win this season. The reason being is, one, we have a couple of these assets that are contending pieces that if we were to decide to pivot over to a rebuild, we'd probably be forced to sell, which we don't necessarily want to, such as Tony Pollard, Chuba Hubbard, Chase Brown, Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins. Maybe throw George Pickens into the mix. But regardless, we have some of these older veteran guys that will give us production in the short term that maybe their long-term value isn't exactly what excites you about them. Second thing is, and almost the more important thing, is going to be we don't have our 2026 first-round pick. So we really have no reason, we have no incentive to all of a sudden tank things down, look to play for 2026 and get the 101 next year, right? I mean, you have no incentive whatsoever to be losing games this season. So we very much want to view this as a contending roster. And since it's only a start 8 league, I think having an elite quarterback does make a very big difference. Having Josh Allen is phenomenal here, given the fact that there are some weeks that Allen may just go out there and put up 35 points. He puts up 35 points. He can win you the week by himself. Looking at Drake May, if it wasn't a 10-teamer, if this was instead like Jaden Blue goes to the Dallas Cowboys, that actually may matter just because the Dallas Cowboys have such a thin depth chart. But anyway, if we're looking at May, if you could pivot off of May and maybe get a quarterback downgrade and pick up an additional like starting tight end or so, obviously we would, but the difficulty with this is this going to be a 10-team league. So it should be pretty damn difficult for us to be able to make that move. And also, CJ, please let me know, Colin, let me know if you're in this chat right now so you can ask me questions and go back and forth with me. Please let me know if you're here. Looking at running back, we have Chase Brown, Chuba Hubbard, Tony Pollard. So Chase Brown, winner of the NFL draft. Cincinnati doesn't bring in anybody. I think Chase Brown has to move up my rankings. I think it's safe to just project him out as a running back 1 at this point. Chuba Hubbard, yeah, they bring in Trevor Etienne, but they don't bring him in until round 4. Realistically, you could see that being a pick that just kind of replaces Rico Dowdle and maybe doesn't have any impact on Hubbard himself. Tony Pollard, I guess you can say is a winner as well. Like, we go ahead and we pull up who the Titans have taken this draft. The Titans, pick by pick here, have been Ward and edge. It took a couple of receivers. But, I mean, Tony Pollard looks like he's set up to be the starting running back in a better offense this year than what it was last year. So Pollard looks to get the jump up. Chase Brown gets the jump up. So running back's a lot better than it was. Wide receiver, we have Puka, Higgins, Ayuk, Pickens. Again, like these depth receivers such as Pickens, probably not the most impactful players, but since we don't have our 2026 first, maybe the depth's a little bit more important for us because we'll have less flexibility during the season to make moves. And then really, I'd say the main thing that's going to hold us from competing this next season is tight end, where we are sitting with Isaiah Likely as our top guy, Hunter Henry as our second name. But I do think you're in a range where you actually may be able to get a tight end in the draft that can make a difference. Because we're sitting here with the 203, so it's going to be pick 13. Maybe there's a chance that either Loveland or Warren ends up falling. But I guess you can make an argument, well, this is going to be a one quarterback format, so Cam Ward's not going to have gone. So Loveland, Warren are more like picks 9 and 10. So for them to fall to pick 13, probably not happening, right? And if we're looking at pick 13 again, since Ward's not going to have gone, since Dart's not going to have gone, really it's more like pick 15. If you end up getting like RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson, Warren, Loveland, any of these guys making it to you, I think you should be super excited. You should just go ahead and pull the trigger on them immediately. The concern would be that every single one of these players is gone. RJ Harvey's gone. Caleb Johnson's gone. And instead we're looking at Jaden Higgins. We're looking at Luther Burden. And in that instance, specifically with your league settings here, I don't know if we can be super excited about just going ahead and plugging in Jaden Higgins as our wide receiver 5, because if we can only realistically start a total of 8 guys and only a total of 6 combined running backs and wide receivers, like Jaden Higgins, Luther Burden, these are other examples of names that I don't necessarily know if they move the needle in this format for you. So I think plan A is we're going to stick with where we're at pick 13. And we're going to hope that we end up getting RJ Harvey. We're going to hope that we end up getting Caleb Johnson making it to us. And if they don't, then at pick 13, if we're looking at like Jaden Higgins, Luther Burden, Kyle Williams, Trey Harris is the best players on the board, then you're probably going to need to go ahead and you're going to need to pivot off and you're going to need to sell this pick for a tight ends. If not, I think right now what I'd be willing to do is go out there, approach some of the teams that maybe have top tight ends. Like this team has David Njoku. Obviously, the Browns take a tight end in the draft this year, but I still think Njoku, he's only 29 years old. If you could go ahead and send the 206 for David Njoku with this team that has Brock Bowers right now, I would do so in a heartbeat. Going ahead and looking at some of these other rosters that maybe have an extra tight end that we could, if we can send the 206 to go get Tucker Kraft, obviously it's an absolute no-brainer. Send the 206 and go get Kyle Pitts. I'd be looking to do that as well. Send the 206, go get Alton Kincaid. I'd be looking to do that. But again, I think because it's only a start 8 format, I definitely would like to go out there and upgrade the tight end position if we can. The preferred way to do it is sell the 206 rather than the 203, because the 203, again, I think you have the possibility of getting like a Harvey or a Caleb Johnson falling to you here in a 10-team format. You're saying, what value are you thinking for Drake May? So if we're looking at pivoting off of May, the big difficulty is, again, we're going to have to find a quarterback needy team. So this team here is sitting, say, with Jordan Love, Sam Darnold, Anthony Richardson. So maybe one thing that we could look to do, if possible, and again, one quarterback format's going to be extremely difficult to kind of get this value, so you're probably not going to be able to. But I would go out there and I would offer Drake May for Jordan Love in the 202. Because if we pivot down from Drake May to Jordan Love, we're starting Josh Allen every week regardless. Doesn't particularly impact us too much. You pick up the 202, that gives you a real good shot to draft RJ Harvey. It gives you a real good shot to draft Caleb Johnson. So that's one move that I think we could be looking at with May. This team has Baker, Jared Goff, Michael Penix. They're sitting with pick 9 in the drafts. Pick 9 is a range in which you're probably looking at one of the tight ends, whether that's Loveland or Warren, which I think would help our team a decent amount. If you could sell, say, Drake May, sell Drake May, pick 16, get back Baker Mayfield, and pick 9, I think that could be something you could consider as well. Really, those are probably the only two teams that could use that quarterback upgrade, right? Cameron says, also, I'll be taking Caleb Johnson in this draft, but RG Harvey, I think, falls to him there. Ooh, so Cameron's in this league. That's exciting. But I think that's really the main thing is I think you got to pivot off the 206, go get a tight end because your team elsewhere can look to contend. 203, you have a shot at getting someone like RJ Harvey. If you can tier down from Drake May to pick up an additional quarterback, pick up a different quarterback, but an additional late first, early second, I think we'd be looking to do that. But it is just much, much easier said than done given your league settings, of course. But please let me know if you have any additional questions, and let me know if there's anything I can help you out with as well. But yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, Cameron. Thank you, Colin. Both of y'all. I really do appreciate it. But we're going to move over to Hunter Ham. I know somebody in here was saying that they were Hunter Ham earlier. Let me remind myself who that was. Hunter McLeese says, I'm a team review, Hunter Ham / bottle caps. Let's go ahead and let's pull this up. Hunter, please let me know if you're still here. Perfect. Let me hook you up with a couple free trade question vouchers just in case, whether it's during the season or later in the off season. Gosh dang, it's saying error creating voucher. Okay, let me try closing this out and going back in. We are going to have to log out, log back in. Okay, give me 1 second. I just want to make sure I can get you those free trade question vouchers because I want you to be able to get additional access to things during the year, of course. Okay. Okay. Hunter Ham. Perfect. We are back. So please tell me it works. Perfect. Here we go. So you have a couple of free trade question vouchers just in case you have any other questions later in the offseason. It says, I'm the bottle caps and I recently won first overall last season in the toilet bowl. I've considered attempting to get the 102 or the 103. Don't think I will, but wondering if you think we should go after anything else. So crazy to get the 101 in the toilet bowl. It gives us the most valuable team in this league because obviously we're going to be able to bring in Genty to a team that desperately needs running backs where we already have the elite wide receiver core. This is going to be a start 8 league. So again, very similar to the last team that we looked at. This is a situation in which the depth is not going to be super important. Being able to build around the elite assets at the very top, that's what's going to matter, and that's what's going to move the needle. And similar to last, we have those elite level assets, especially now that we're able to bring in Ash and Genty here at 1. But anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Starting off at quarterback, we are sitting with Josh Allen. Again, start 8 league quarterbacks, even if it's a 1 QB league, going to make up a higher percentage of our starting lineup output than it otherwise would. So I think we're in a really good spot to just stick in here with Josh Allen and Tua. Absolutely nothing that we can say or nothing that we would say about pivoting off of either one of these players. This is the exact guys you would want for the format. Looking at running back, we're going to bring in Ginty. You for sure stick and pick at 1. Ginty is the perfect guy for this format, especially since it's a half PPR format. Ollie, yes, if you have a team review, let me know your name on the site, and I'd be happy to check that out for you right now. But if you bring in Ginty, we're looking at Ginty, Walker, Charbonnet. Running back depth is still going to be a little bit questionable beyond that. But again, start 8 format, so the depth's not going to matter too much. And going ahead and looking at what we have with the 201, it's going to be a 1 quarterback format. So again, Jackson Dart will not have been taken. Cam Ward most likely will not have been taken either. So that 201, instead of it being pick 13, maybe pick 15. But if you could get RJ Harvey, if you could get Caleb Johnson, that solves every issue that we would possibly have here. Is if you can bring in Ginty and then add in either Harvey or Caleb Johnson, that gives us a running back room where we have not only the production at the very top end, but we have depth throughout as well. The issue is going to be if instead Jaden Higgins and Luther Burden are going to be the best available players on your board, it will make things a little bit more difficult. Going over to receiver, we don't have much depth here either. We have CeeDee Lamb, we have Malik Neighbors, we have Lad McConkey. Now, again, it's a start 8 format. So if you think through this logistically, while if this was like a start 10, start 11 league, we'd be screwed. Start 8 league, we're going to be starting Allen, Walker, Ginty, Lamb, Neighbors, Lad. And then hopefully the player at the 201 moves the needle. And then like Isaiah Likely at tight end, or Pat Frymuth at tight end, or Evan Ingram at tight end, whoever the hell it may be. I don't think we can afford to upgrade tight end here for sure. If we were looking at maybe making a trade, if this was going to be a start 10 league, if this was going to be a start 11 format, I would say that you'd have no other option but to go ahead and take one of these green players like CeeDee Lamb or like Malik Neighbors and tier down and pick up an additional starter, maybe an additional pick. But specifically because it's a start 8 format, I think your team is structured the exact way that we would want it to be, where I'm not looking to make those tier downs. If anything, we're looking to tier up where we possibly can, but we can't tier up just because we don't have the depth. Like, what are we going to add to the 201 to be able to get to like the 106? Like, we're not going to be able to sell Ramondre. We're not going to be able to sell Zach Charbonnet in the 201 to get to the 106. If you could, you would. We can't afford to sell Kenneth Walker in the 201 to get to the 106 just because we simply don't have the starters. So you're the number 1 team in the league analyzer. I think you're structured exactly how I'd want you to be for your formats. The only real trade I think you make is if we're on the clock at the 201, Harvey's gone, Caleb Johnson's gone, and instead we're looking at these names like Jaden Higgins and we're looking at Luther Burden, then at that point, I think you pivot over and I think you sell the pick. I mean, obviously you can sell the pick right now regardless if you're able to get a nice return for it. If we're looking at the teams that we're going to try to target, obviously it would be these rebuilding rosters. If you could sell the 201 for Kyron Williams, you did so in a heartbeat, even if you had to sell an additional Ramondre Stevenson or whoever it may be. Right. But almost regardless, you're not going to be able to get to Kyron. So that's probably off the table here. If we could go ahead and move off the 201, and this is something that maybe we could look at if this team is viewing themselves as a rebuilding roster. If you could move the 201, pick up a couple additional running back starting depth pieces. Like go 201, get Tony Pollard and Chris Godwin, or DeAndre Swift and Chris Godwin. That would put you in a spot where we have like Ginty, Walker, Charbonnet, and then an additional running back starter, either in the form of Pollard or Swift, and then get an additional wide receiver starter with Godwin as well. I mean, throw in Dontavian Wicks if they need a younger wide receiver. %, would look to make that pivot. That team's probably looking to contend. This team's probably looking to contend. They have CMC. This team with the picks that they have, they're probably looking to contend. That team doesn't have their 2026 first. They're looking to contend. Maybe here, another example of what we could be looking to do is try to pick up like Isaiah Pacheco and Jacoby Myers for the 201. With Pacheco dodging the NFL draft, pick up Joe Mixon for the 201. But again, that's in the scenario in which Caleb Johnson and RJ Harvey are already off the board for you. Because if either running back falls and we just go Ginty, RJ Harvey, have all the running back depth we need, have the top end wide receivers, I think you go into the season as is. And if you get an injury to one of your receivers, get an injury to one of your running backs, you'd be a strong enough contender at that point to go ahead and take your 2026 first, especially when we have 2 of them, to trade it for an additional starter. I would not trade your 2026 picks now, however, just because I do want to put us in a position where we can wait until the season, just in case we know, oh, do we really need to trade for a running back? Do we really need to trade for a wide receiver? Because once you make these rookie picks here, you should be in a spot where both are fine on paper unless you get an injury. So this is pretty much just backup ammunition during the year for us to be able to fill whatever hole that we have. So I'm not wanting to trade these 2026 picks right now. I think if our rookies that we talked about are gone by the 201, instead you're having to look like Higgins or Burden, I would go ahead and I would look to sell the 201 for those for a depth running back and a depth receiver. But if you can just go running back, 101, 201, I think you're going to be just fine. But please let me know if you have any additional questions in the chat. I know I hooked you up with a couple of free trade vouchers as well. I wish I had more for you, but again, I think you've done a great job specifically with tailoring to your league format with how we have this team structured with the studs and duds approach. Like you can see, we have 4 green players on this team. We're going to have 5 green players when we bring in Genty. We have 1 orange player and then all red, which is in a start 8 league, which is what I'd be looking for. Kyle says, Dynasty League's on fire this morning. Sleeper ruling that Travis Hunter will have wide receiver defensive back designation. We're in an IDP league. Should Hunter go 101? Yeah, if you're going to get wide receiver spots in an IDP slot, I think you're completely justified. Hunter says, is there a scenario where the 201 should go with the tight end, or do you think the 2 lower end is best? So if you end up getting, so my thought process is just like, I don't think Loveland or Warren's going to fall to you in a tight end premium format. But yeah, if either Loveland or Warren fall to you at the 201, I would go about it. But again, I think I said this at the top of the review. The issue is, like, specifically in that 1 quarterback league, Cam Ward's not going to push these guys down. So instead you're looking at like Loveland and Warren being like in picks 9 and 10, or at least in my rankings. So for them to get a 13, I think it'd be a little bit of a stretch. But I would not go out there and trade for a tight end, to be honest. I think you just go into the season with likely Frymuth, Ingram, Hunter Henry, and go, probably 2 of these guys are bums. Maybe one of them's okay, and maybe one of them's good. And we'll figure out during the year which one of these is which. Now, again, if Loveland falls to you at the 201, just go ahead and take him. But I just don't know if that's super likely. And I definitely don't want to be reaching on the guys like Mason Taylor or Terrence Ferguson in that range. And I don't think you need to go out of your way and like sell the 201 for David Njoku or anything. But Brad says, how far does Rome drop in the rankings of value with all the new weapons? I will later today sit down and really think through what we have with the Dynasty rankings and tiers, and I'll make sure that we get those. Jackson says, sorry if you already answered this, but just joined. Do you think Judkins' value drops after they drafted Samson? So here's where I had Judkins before they drafted Samson. I had Judkins at pick 7. I had Henderson at pick 6. I am not moving Judkins any lower. All I would say is, if anybody had Judkins ranked before Henderson, previous to the Dylan Sampson news, then I would flip it. So like, I already had Henderson ahead of Judkins. But if you were thinking Judkins over Henderson, I don't think you can anymore. That's how I view it. So I'm not having to move my rankings, but I think some people should have to move theirs, in my opinion. But yeah, I think we're going to move on from Hunter. I appreciate you again, my guy. And again, if you have any additional questions, please let me know. And yeah, let me know in the live chat right now if y'all have if anybody here is waiting on a team review, let me know your name. And I would be happy to go ahead and look at that for you. If not, we probably do these team reviews tomorrow. It is the craziest thing ever to have Trey Harris over Golden. Do not do that. And I don't even like Golden. Hunter says, well, I've watched you since the start of this league, so I guess you've done me well. Appreciate it, but that's all I got. Really appreciate you, my guy. And yeah, thank you so much for everything. And I hope I can see some more trade questions from you in the future. But if we don't have anybody else in this live stream waiting for their team review, I probably will call it here and then get to the rest of these team reviews tomorrow or maybe tonight. We'll see. But we're going to be recording a bunch of videos and stuff later today. I do kind of want to eat lunch at some point. But yeah, Dylan, I'm going to record some videos for the Dynasty channel literally right after I end this live stream. But it looks like there's nobody else here. So appreciate y'all. And again, thank you for hanging out with me this morning. Maybe I'll be live later tonight. We'll see. Because I know we have more team reviews to look at. But we're definitely going to be live tomorrow at the very least. But thank God that the draft is here. And thank